Welcome, dead and lovely listeners, to a brand new installment of Dead and Lovely, the greatest horror movie podcast and all the known multiverse and beyond. Here with the host with the most, why it's me, Uncle Ben.
And me, Hollywood Steve Spetler.
Oh my god, the crowd is going wild. Positively nuts.
That guy looks great. He's awesome.
There's bras and panties just flying all over that feller.
Please tell us about how you used to teach a class at UT again.
Tell us about it some more.
Tell us about that time you got your neck cut.
We were big
you
fans.
You have a very limited set of stories.
How you doing this week there, Hollywood Steve?
I'm doing great.
Yeah? What's been going on?
Not a whole lot.
Yeah, keeping it real, watching out for werewolves.
Mostly keeping it real and keeping an eye out for werewolves.
Stockpiling
I always
silver.
got some silver with me. I got my Wolfsbane.
Ooh, that's handy to have on hand, yes.
Yeah. I'll have, I don't know, a sorceress nearby who can maybe de-wolfify him. Yeah.
Very important to have around. You never know when you might need one of those.
Enchantresses, listen, you feel like you don't need one until the second you do.
Exactly.
It's like insurance, man. You're like, why am I paying for this? No need. Then you need it.
It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, brother.
That's what they say about enchantresses.
That's right. That's right.
Enchantresses.
Enchantresses. Yeah, it's one of those. It's definitely one of those. It's been a dang old busy week for me, Steve. I've been sailing smooth, yacht rocking a whole bunch.
That's awesome. You were wearing a white linen get up.
Oh, dude.
That
all
looked
linen,
awesome.
All linen. I've got a white linen shirt, which I never was sure when I'd be able to use. Found a use for it. You unbutton that thing down low, put a gold chain on.
Yeah.
Get you a ponytail going on.
Didn't Bobby McFerrin have a white linen?
That sounds right.
Like on the cover of Don't Worry, Be Happy?
I think so. I think you're right.
So you're basically Bobby McFerrin.
I like that. Well, I decided like this would be my outfit for the show. I was like, yeah, this is going to work. And I roll up, and our keyboard player and Smooth Sailor's like, dude, your outfit's awesome. You look like a cult leader. And I was like, yeah, I do.
You kind of are a cult leader.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. Only I don't have that tax-free status. I'm missing out on all the best parts.
You just need to fill out a few papers and boom, tax-free. Scientology did it.
Yeah, that's right.
Where's Shelley Miscavige? Anybody know?
I want to know.
I do want to know that.
People need to know, man. You know, back in the MySpace days,
way back.
I know, my handle was Legendary Hans.
I remember that.
And there was a fan of mine who started up another MySpace page that was called the Hanstralites, which was the religion of Hans worship.
Wow.
So this ain't my first time being a cult leader.
This ain't your first rodeo.
Yeah. The power just has a way of finding me, I suppose.
You know, the person who is at their first rodeo is sitting there like, this is my first rodeo.
Don't tell anybody that.
Please explain this to me. I have no idea what's happening.
What are you
first
doing to
rodeo.
that thing's nuts? Oh my God.
But you do know about rodeos that after your first experience, you know everything there is to know. That's why you can say, this isn't my first rodeo.
So in other words, what you're saying is, there's not really that much to know about rodeoing.
Right.
Yeah. You kind of learn it all the first time.
Yeah, you catch it all the first time. I don't know how you could. I've been to a rodeo, and I'm still a little perplexed as to why there are people out there dressed like clowns, and what the purpose of any of it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To prove who can hang on to a bucking bronco, dude. Obviously.
I mean, but it's been around forever. I mean, the bull leapers that they found in Crete.
Yeah.
The art.
Oh yeah, they would do that. That's right.
Yeah. So they found that youths used to do crazy shit with bulls, so
not much has changed, man. Like, I still look around at great big crowds of people and I go, which one of these guys could hang on to a bull with its nuts in a fucking
seconds.
clamp? Yeah, exactly. Which one of these guys could ride Bodacious? You remember Bodacious?
Yeah.
That's one of those, like, you definitely, you know that you grew up in the South in the late 80s or early 90s.
If you know the name of a monster truck and a bucking bull.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear the Ballad of Bodacious by Primus?
No.
It is a song about Bodacious.
That's awesome.
And it's awesome.
Yeah.
Obviously, great bass line.
Right.
But they used to sell that like VHS compilation of all of like Bodacious's like craziest
near
near deaths that thing would cause. Those were the days.
Do you remember the late night like monster truck videos?
Fuck yeah. Absolutely so.
You could watch Gravedigger versus Godzilla or something.
Bigfoot.
That was it, not Godzilla.
What was your favorite monster truck from back in the day?
Gravedigger.
Me too.
Yeah.
All
That's
day
obvious.
it was Gravedigger,
It was
man.
so cool.
Dude, it was easily the most metal monster truck. That's
it
why
was.
that swirled guitar back there, that's the purple and
That's
green and
Gravedigger,
black.
yeah.
Like, literally, I was
Yeah.
like, I need to do this in Gravedigger
That's
colors
awesome.
for Gravedigger. Still the best, man. Still the best. I still have this, like, odd desire to one day pilot a monster truck and just roll over cars.
That would be fun.
It would be amazing.
There's no doubt about it. It would be fun. Like, all of the most dangerous, insane shit that we're like, probably shouldn't exist. The reason it exists because it's fun.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it if it wasn't.
It's real fun to do.
Steve, what you been watching this week, man?
I watched a little movie called Final Exam.
It was a small movie, a movieette, a featurette.
It was less than an hour 20, I believe.
It was on
so-
Microfiche.
It was on Microfiche. I went to the library. I watched it still by still, just turning that little knob.
Wow, you got to
Yeah.
do it really fast.
You just got to do it real fast the whole time.
Is that one of them book rental places?
Yeah,
They rent books, right?
they rent up books for free.
It's like the
It is
original
what they call a
iTunes.
public service.
Oh,
Yes, it's some of that old school socialism that made our country great that everybody's so fucking pissed about. or something.
none of that, no at all.
Right.
Don't want to
Yeah.
hear about it.
Yeah. It's always fun. Like, I don't know if you know the meme with the guys from that chopper place with Paulie D.
Oh yeah, we're like yelling at each other.
Yeah,
and pointing
have
and
you seen
stuff.
the one where it's like socialism won't work and it's like, what about Sweden? And they're like, that's not socialism, it's the democratic whatever. And then he's like, well, let's have some of that. And he's like, no, that's socialism. It's like, okay, so right.
Right.
Like, people can always point to the failures of socialism, but then when you point to one where it's like success, it's like, well, that's not socialism. Well, it's like, okay,
Could we try that?
well,
then?
let's just try that then, because you're not against it.
Yeah,
Let's
apparently.
do that.
You're not saying it doesn't work.
Right.
All right, so Final Exam. This is an 80s movie, right?
80s movie, 80s slasher.
I like it already.
Yeah, very derivative of Halloween, but also really terribly acted with, I don't know how to describe it other than just some nice Southern characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's set in, or it was
Some
shot.
good old boys.
It was shot in North Carolina, so there are a number of people with strong Southern accents. The
Wonderful.
sheriff, the security guy.
Speaking my language.
But then the main actors are all from LA, so none of them seem to try to do a Southern accent. It's set on a campus, last day of final exams, so there aren't that many people left on the campus, and then murders start happening. But
Look out.
there's one scene in particular that you have to see. Everybody in the year 2019 has to see in final exam. About 20 minutes in, there's a scene that is shocking in a way that it wouldn't have been shocking in 1981.
Right. So it was the realm of impossibility.
Yeah, it's
Something
just
like this
so
would
it
happen.
would be
Yeah.
so absurd. They would be like, "Ha, this is ridiculous. That would never happen." But watching it now, you're like, "Oh, right, this happens all the time."
Oh,
now.
damn.
Yeah.
Damn.
So watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. It's not great, but if you like 80s slashers, it is fun. I enjoyed it. I would recommend watching it. Yeah.
You know, something that just kind of struck me as you were saying that, you were talking about how it was kind of a derivative of Halloween slasher. And I was
Right.
like, yeah, pretty much every slasher in the 80s was kind of
Yeah,
derivative
and
of
that's
Halloween,
actually
right?
that's real disappointing when you go back and read reviews of 80s slashers. Every single one, even Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, they'll be like, derivative of Halloween. That was just the easiest way to dismiss every horror movie that was coming out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So when you're, on a rush and you're like, oh, I got to go watch this horror movie. Okay, derivative of Halloween. I'll write down before the movie even starts.
Right, yeah, starting with that.
But this one very much is.
But the thing that kind of struck me about it, I was having a conversation with one of my guitar students earlier today. He was talking about some like 80s shred guitar player thing that he saw a guy do. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a Van Halen thing. And I was like, you could say that about basically every 80s guitar player. It's like that's all Van Halen stuff.
Exactly.
And it's weird because like Van Halen 1 came out, I think late 78, and basically created 80s rock. The original Halloween came out in 78 and basically created 80s slashers.
Huh.
I hadn't thought about that before.
Wow.
Weird, wild stuff.
I wonder if anything came out around the time of Scream. So, like, what new metal came out that time that made us have such shit music afterwards?
I'm going to throw a lot of that blame onto Linkin Park.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because that's when a lot of the electronic stuff started getting wrapped up and sampling and all that and some rapping.
Limp Bizkit. Well, but Korn was already around before that, and Korn kind of started that bullshit.
They definitely stuck a big flag in that sound and kind of went with it. The Deftones are like the one band I think that kind of escaped from that, and it's like, oh, they're still making relevant music that isn't just nostalgia for new metal fans.
Yeah, I'd say that's true. A lot of people say that about Linkin Park, though. I'm not like a big Linkin Park fan, but a lot of people still really liked them up until they stopped making music forever, probably.
Probably so. I have had such a fucking busy week. I've not watched much. I think the most major thing that I watched this week of note is the Jim Jarmusch Dead Don't Die, which we saw together and did a mini episode on. With our wives.
Yeah, both of our wives were on the episode, and we got some great feedback about it, too. A lot of people loved to hear us with our wives.
They love the ladies.
They should.
I know I do.
They're both entertaining.
That was fun. I still love the movie, and I couldn't believe that after I went back and started reading other people's reviews of it, man, a lot of people did not like the movie
just
at all.
It. And I don't get it.
I don't either. It's like, I mean, I guess maybe if you were thinking you were going in to watch a George Romero fucking social commentary, serious ass zombie movie, and you're like, oh, it's kind of silly. Yeah. Maybe you don't get it, but it's like, did you watch a preview? Did you see Tilda Swinton as a samurai?
The preview told you could come in and watch it without expecting it to get into some crazy territory or real deep. Yeah. Though, as we said in the mini-sode, there is definitely some depth to it. You just have to dig into it. You have to think about it. Right. But without that, it's still just an entertaining, comedy. Yeah. Horror comedy. So anyway.
I really liked it, man. It's like the more I've thought about it, the more I've been like, man, I really, really
it was
very
funny.
Much enjoyed
Hilarious.
that movie.
Actually, I think my wife is going to be re-seeing it this week with her mom.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, because her mom loves basically anything that comes to Downtown West, she goes and sees. Mm-hmm. And she saw the preview and thought it looked funny, so she's going to go see it with Emily.
That's great. We finished watching the apparent final season of Santa Clarita Diet.
Sad. I haven't watched it yet.
Dude, it's fucking great.
I bet.
It is.
It's such an enjoyable show. I can't believe they canceled it.
I hope that some other streaming thing a Hulu or an Amazon picks it up and is we'll make season 4, because the way they kind of ended it without spoiling anything, it's like it could have gone on. It seems like they were thinking of more stuff they could do after this season.
Maybe we could all convince Netflix to at least let them finish it with a movie or something.
Right. HBO's
done that in the past, so maybe Netflix could do it.
Yeah, they just did that with Deadwood and shit, right? Yeah, that's true. But I've noticed that a lot of horror, hardcore horror fans and snobs and stuff really don't like Santa Clarita Diet, and I'm not entirely sure why. It's again, it's not serious, it's funny and stuff. I don't even like Drew Barrymore, and I love the show.
Right. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Really looking at it, I can't. It has the same sort of vibe to it as maybe iZombie, which I think a lot of other horror people don't like as well.
I haven't seen
because
that.
It's a little campy. But what? Do you know horror?
Yeah, exactly. Don't we like campy stuff?
Horror and camp go together a lot, and it's great a lot of the time. So I don't know.
But we were watching that final season, and there's some scenes of which, if you've watched the show, it gets gory.
Yes,
it gets really, really gory. But there's some scenes in there of just somebody riding in the passenger seat of a truck, and they're eating a human arm, just real casually, it's a snack. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so fucking gross. And Kate's like, you watch horror movies and stuff all the time. It's why does this gross you out? Because there's a lot of stuff in that show that just fucking grosses me out, And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, I don't really know, because I don't really squirm in my seat that much with all the other stuff that we watch. And I was like, you know what? I think because this show isn't really trying to be horrific or shocking. Whenever they show gore or, you know, a zombie eating somebody, it's in this very plain, matter-of-fact, like, they're not trying to, you know, show it through the peephole of a door of a zombie eating somebody like you do in a horror movie to make it spooky and scary. It's just very plain. It's somebody
like,
eating somebody.
This would be the life of a zombie. You just have to deal with this.
Yeah. I think that the plainness of it is what grosses me out about it, but I find it really effective.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hope that they pick it back up again or something, though, because I really, really did enjoy it quite a lot.
I have to watch that last season, but I can't imagine I would lose any enjoyment from it. It's been so good.
Yeah.
The first 2 seasons were just so fun. We watched them so quick, too, my wife and I, because we hadn't watched season 1, and season 2 had just come out, and our friend Brandy, we were all hanging out, and she was like, "You guys haven't seen Santa Clarita Diet? Turning it on." She just put it on, and we started watching it, and then didn't stop until we were done with season 2, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Steve, you've been video gaming lately, from what you tell me.
I have been video gaming.
I love a video game.
Me too, and I finally picked a game that has kept my interest long enough that I want to finish it.
More than NBA Live 98?
96.
I'm
still playing
far
that.
superior 96.
I'm still playing that. I had forgotten that NBA Live 96 because, long story, basically they didn't have a lot of people that were actually in the NBA on the rosters because of some legal issues. But they had all these like blank players, and if you went in and put the right thing in, like Jordan,
you just make that player.
Yeah, it would just make that player.
Oh, that's cool.
I had forgotten about that, so the other day I was like, "Oh, right!" And I went in and made Jordan and Barkley and a lot of those other awesome guys.
I know that we're spoiled now with video games, but back in the day, whenever a game would have a create a player feature, dude,
it was so awesome.
What was the first WWF game that did that? Was it Warzone or Raw is War? It was for PlayStation 1 where I had the character creator.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh my god, dude. And me and Josh, we would go online.
Just go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just want to test all the moves and stuff. That was on WrestleMania 2000 and Nintendo 64. Like, you got to choose every single individual move.
Right.
That was so awesome.
And you could go online and people would be like, okay, enter the stats this way, give them this costume, these moves, and it's like, and you've just made Dusty Rhodes.
Right.
Like all these classic wrestlers or, oh man, it was so fun.
It was so awesome.
It was so fun.
Yeah. So I still was playing NBA Live 96, but started playing Shining Force.
Okay, I've heard of it and never played it.
I had only played Shining Force 2 because Shining Force 1 wasn't readily available, I remember, but we played Shining Force 2 and we were like obsessed with it.
It's an RPG?
It's a tactical RPG.
Oh.
So it's got that sort of chessboard thing where you have like your certain, but each individual character can move particular ways and can attack particular ways. And I love that type of RPG, and it's from playing Shining Force 2.
Oh, okay.
So I went back and I'm playing Shining Force 1, which is also a tactical RPG. It's got a lot of issues, like item management and stuff issues, but the story is awesome, and the animation is great. Like, the look of the sprites is fine, but it's particularly the battle animation that looks so awesome.
Was it a Sega title?
Yeah, Sega.
Original, like, Genesis title?
Yeah, Genesis.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Is it anything like Final Fantasy Tactics? You remember Tactics for PlayStation?
Yes. Yeah, Final Fantasy Tactics for PlayStation was...
That's like the king of all of them.
Well, actually, Final Fantasy Tactics, they remade it for Game Boy Advance.
Yeah,
and
I remember
that version
that.
is fucking awesome.
Is it better?
It's better because, it looks better and it's a little more... I think they made the dealing with items a little more efficient and stuff, but it didn't change a whole lot. I love those tactics games. Fire Emblem games.
Yeah.
Check those out if you like tactics games. But anyway, I've been loving playing Shining Force. And what I've been thinking about is I don't like wasting my time, but I do want to play video games. So I'm thinking about streaming video games.
Profitize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do. Like, you just find what you like to do, find people that'll pay you to do it, dude. That's the key to everything in life.
But here's the thing I thought of. I'm a horror dude. So why wouldn't I stream horror games?
They make a horror vid game or two.
But here's the fun part about me. I hate horror video games and am easily scared by all of them. Yes. So if I start playing horror video games on streams, you're going to see me squirming a lot.
That sounds great.
Also, I'm not very good at video games.
I don't even think that matters anymore is the thing, you know?
It doesn't.
I don't even know if it matters.
Actually, I think it'll be more entertaining that I'm just screaming and sucking the whole time.
And dying over and over. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good idea.
Horror. Like, the most horror that I will deal with is, like, there are certain things in Fallout or
like a BioShock
Skyrim or something, yeah. Or Red Dead Redemption even has some side quests that are real gruesome. But I can't handle a game that's full horror and meant to scare you and stuff. So I'm gonna start streaming.
That sounds awesome. Not even a Resident Evil or anything like that. Are you a fan of?
I'm not good at Resident Evil. It does scare the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. Anything where stuff pops up. I had this problem with Fallout New Vegas and Vault 22. Anybody out there listening is thinking, like, what's so scary about Vault 22? They're these, like, plant creatures that are hidden amongst foliage, and you can't exactly see them, but they come out, and they're fucking frightening to me. And I hate going to Vault. Like, I've played Fallout New Vegas a ton of times with different characters doing it different ways, and always when I have to go to Vault 22, I'm like, fuck,
it'll spook you.
Yes. Even though I know exactly where they are now, it's just like, shit, I'm still like crouching, knowing exactly where it is, knowing I could just throw a grenade or something. I'm still just like, oh fuck, I don't want to. If it jumps out at me, I'm going to get fucking scared.
There's something about some of those good horror video games, though, that does draw you in a way that sitting and watching a movie doesn't. And I think it's because you're the one that's in control of the situation, you know?
Yes.
I mean, with a horror movie, it's like, yeah, you just sit there and watch it, and whatever happens, happens.
Right, and you can sit there and be like, I just do this and this and this. But that's why I don't say that shit. Because I know when I'm in a horror video game, I freeze up in that fucking moment.
I don't know, run up the stairs, go to the basement.
Don't fire the shotgun I'm holding. What?
It is like that, though. Yes. It really does kind of pull you in. That would be really fun, man. I would love to one day get to stop in and do a guest game as
that'd be cool.
Michael McDonald, hey, Silent Hill.
It's us playing Silent. Oh shit!
Oh my god!
Oh, did you see that over there?
Zombies! I want a text message alert that's just Michael McDonald going, zombies, zombies, werewolves.
I would have to start though with, because I don't have the equipment yet to stream something like Xbox or whatever. I'd have to start with the old NES, SNES stuff. Because I'll tell you this, I had the Friday the 13th video game, and that game scared me.
Yeah.
Because he just shows up out of nowhere.
He does, as if from nowhere.
And it's fucking I never beat him. Did you ever beat Jason in that game? No,
it's fucking impossible. There's no way to.
Did you ever play the Jaws video game?
No.
Every time Jaws showed up, I would fucking just freak out.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because it would be like,
sharks!
Holy shit! Oh no, it's Jaws over there.
Dude, you should get started with a fun one and play Zombies Ate My Neighbors for Super Nintendo.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Have you ever played it?
No.
Oh my god.
I know of it, but I never did play it.
There's a reason you know of it, dude.
Yeah.
It is great. Yeah, it's really fun. It's kind of a 3/4 perspective, kind of an action kind of game, but it's got a really good fun sense of humor about it, and you're armed with like squirt guns and shit like this.
Okay.
It is a really cool, fun game. I think you'd actually just really enjoy it. It's not really a scary game. It's just
Maniac
really fun.
Mansion is one I hadn't thought of either.
Maniac Mansion.
So Maniac Mansion.
Fucking Slaughterhouse. Like
Slaughterhouse.
There's all these, that were for
right.
Genesis and stuff. You can even play like Mutant League football and Mutant League hockey. Those games were awesome.
Maniac Mansion, do you remember if you opened a certain door, the grandma would chase you?
I never played it.
Oh, you never played Maniac Mansion? Okay. Well, there was like a certain door, if you opened it, the grandma would chase you, and it was so scary to me.
Oh, shit.
I haven't played it as an adult. Maybe as an adult it won't scare me, but it probably will, because I just don't... I think I play video games because I like to feel in control.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't feel in control when... something's jumping out of nowhere.
Nightmare Creatures. That's a really shitty PS1.
I've never played that
game.
one.
It's not very good, but that's what would make it fun to watch.
You also play that game that was based off of Phenomena.
Clock Tower.
Clock Tower.
Yeah, Clock Tower. That's
Yeah.
that's a weird game.
Yeah.
It's a weird one. Dude, that would be a really cool idea. I'd like for our Dead and Lovely listeners to contribute some other ones too. If you're on the
let me
Facebook
know
page or
some
the
video
Discord.
games that are from the first and second generation consoles. If it's a disc-based system, I can do it as long as it's like PlayStation or what. My emulator can handle all those things.
Yeah.
I think it can even do GameCube games. I'm not positive on that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll figure out something fun that we can do with that involves our Patreon account and stuff too, and our lovely supportive
That would be
patrons.
fun.
Let's go ahead and plug this before the show gets too late into it and people start turning it off. We got a Patreon page, y'all.
We do have a Patreon
You
page.
can give us dollar papers.
And if you at least give us $1 a month, we'll give you a shout out on the show.
Shout in, shout it, shout it, shout it out loud. You're gonna shout it out.
So I wanted to give some shout outs.
Get them, Steve. Tell me about 'em.
We got a few here.
Who's giving us their money?
Sean T.
Sean
You ever
T.
heard this man?
I've heard of this fella.
All right.
I heard tell of him. He's a good boy.
We got a Lance Melancon or Melancon?
Melancon and the infinite lanceness.
That's him. Yeah. We got a Josh. Just Josh.
Dude, a Josh?
Yeah, a Josh.
Singular Josh he's called.
Speaking of people who are single named, we got a Katie.
Oh, Katie, what's up?
Katie, who recently was the person who was selected when we did our movie title drawing. Katie gives us $5 a month.
Mm-hmm.
She suggested the movie 28 Days Later.
That indeed.
If you've seen the video, it's already been posted. We pulled one out of the hat. It was Katie's 28 Days Later suggestion.
Yeah.
So not only a shout out to Katie, but also, hey, we're doing your movie next week.
Yeah, that's a real fun thing that I'm looking forward to doing here. Yeah,
Yeah, me
basically,
too.
if you're on the Patreon $5 or up level, you can suggest a movie to be thrown into our Wild Dark Swan lottery drawing that we're going to do
Right.
periodically.
Yeah.
Where you guys get to drive the car and help us pick movies to do here on the show. I'm excited to see about this stuff and see what people suggest. So get into it, y'all.
I'm gonna finish. I'm gonna let myself finish. I'm gonna let me finish.
I'm gonna
let me finish in a second.
For some reason, I did that in like Ross Perot voice. I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm gonna let you finish. Kanye and Ross Perot, similar.
Dude,
similar
those
guys.
two together would just be, now let me finish.
Oh,
No, I'm going to let you finish. Now let me finish.
they both though might refer to a crowd of black people as you people. I hadn't thought about that, but Kanye's brushes with Trump make me think he might.
Do you think they both say it in unison and then
They turn.
Ross Perot turns
It's like
and,
slow. Like
wait a minute, is that what you call them too?
it's like a slow turn and then romantic music.
Yeah.
I'm all out of love. I'm so
Kanye
lost without
and Ross
you.
Perot, BFF, best friends forever.
Oh man. So anyway, I'm gonna let me finish.
Okay.
But I wanted to mention what we decided to do since you guys, the $5 patrons that all submitted movies, since you guys are our first patrons, we just wanted to basically make July about your selections. Aside from our annual Harry Potter episode, which will be the second week in July, we're gonna do 28 Days Later for July 1st, and we're gonna have our listeners vote on all the other titles for the next 3 weeks after Harry Potter in July.
We're basing this on a very successful model where the wealthy elite
Right?
get to make the choices and then present it
To the pores.
to the poor, and they have the illusion of choice,
Right.
of feeling like they're choosing something. But
Yes.
it's really just the choices that the people with the money are giving them.
We're manipulating you. See, we're playing both sides.
I've heard this model works great.
Right.
So, so that's what we're going to do.
No, but the titles, the
There's
reason
some
why
good ones
we
in there.
decided to do this is because there's so many good suggestions, and we thought we were already going to do a vote thing for the month, and then we thought, well, let's use these suggestions.
Yeah, because they're all good, and it's
They're
like, I
great,
can't believe
yeah.
we've not done this movie
Yeah.
yet.
So anyway, go donate money on the Patreon if you want to get involved in this in the future.
Yes, indeed. And thank you so much for all the support, y'all.
And let me just get back to the last few. Justin Tackett. Hey, buddy.
Oh, man,
Thanks
Justin.
for your donation.
You tack it, you glue it, you nail it down, whatever you need to do, buddy.
Tack it, glue it, nail it down. Oh, no. Captain John T.
Captain Jaunty, what
Yar
a name.
to you.
Wow.
We landlubbers, thank you for your service.
Yeah, exactly. Keep fighting them sea monsters, keeping them sirens
Now,
away from it. I don't know what they do, really.
that is what captains do generally. They fight sirens.
The sirens.
Fist fights, usually.
Ooh,
yeah.
wow. Fisticuffs.
Now, I don't know how to pronounce this exactly. Chaide. Now, it could be Chade. It could be Chaid.
Oh, wow.
It could be... I have no idea. Chaide?
I think it could be.
Chaid?
Chaid.
Anyway, thanks for your money.
Yeah, thanks
We're not
for the
making
dollar
fun of your
papers.
name. I just don't know how to read it.
It's a mystery to us, and we're intrigued. Thanks for being
And
you.
Finally, my pal from high school,
Look out.
Terry Wise.
You don't say.
Yeah.
Terry.
He came to the meetup.
That's right.
He's a great guy.
He should start a Tony cover band.
Terry.
It's called Terry. Yeah, it's like Teri.
He and Terry Hatcher.
Yeah, right.
And who's someone else named Terry that's spelled different?
Just a terry cloth robe that's on a stand.
He and Terry Hatcher wearing terry cloth robes.
Doing Tony songs
Tony
as Terry.
That'd be great.
Hey, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You give to us, I'm giving back to you. I'm giving you a life plan. Steve, I love these patrons so much. I just
me
want
too.
I want to raise a toast of a co-beer in their honor.
Yeah, for real.
We got ourselves
pull.
a big old Pretentious beer here that we're going to split from Pretentious Glass Company in downtown Knoxville. This is one that my wife brought home today. This is their triple makeout session, which is a 9.3%er. This is a triple IPA. Have you had this before?
I have not.
It's fucking awesome.
Wait, have I?
I don't know. They've had the double makeout session.
I think I did have it. Oh, I think I had the double makeout.
The double,
yeah,
and it was great. So imagine one more of that.
So an additional makeout.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's going to be pretty much awesome, and apparently quite strong and savory.
This is a strange topic, maybe.
Okay.
But when's the last time you made out?
Ooh, it's been a hot minute.
Yeah.
Probably too long.
How long? Like, once you get to a certain point in marriage, the making out, it becomes less frequent.
It's true.
That's I don't know if that's a positive or a negative, because wasn't the making out like the route to sex?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I guess that it's intimacy. Maybe we're bad at intimacy, Ben. Let's
gonna
make
say
out
you're
now
probably
and
right.
figure it out.
Yeah.
This is my trick.
Let's practice on each other.
This is how I snare them.
Well, now that you bring it up, I kind of feel like I sort of need some practice, and I'd be really embarrassed if I tried it with my wife and I wasn't any good. So maybe we could just
Totally works.
try it
You wanna
on
play it?
each other.
This is a reference to Black Mirror, but you want to play some Striking Vipers?
Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Striking vipers?
Uh-huh.
Is that like sword fighting?
A little bit, yeah.
Lord have mercy. Just the old game of tummy sticks.
A little game of tummy sticks, yeah.
Wow.
All right, so triple makeout. Wow, that's clearer than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
triple
for some
IPA.
reason in my head I thought that it was like a hazy kind of scenario, but this is nice and clear. Mine's got
Smells good.
some nice bubbly effervescence on the top of it. I'm very much looking forward to this. Pretentious makes themselves a fine beer. What's that do to you?
Ooh, buddy.
Coming in hot.
It's got some hoppiness.
Yeah?
Uh-huh.
They add extra hops.
They do. They do. That's real smooth, though. Like, it's got a nice, strong flavor, but it's real smooth.
Boy, it does, doesn't it? There's something in there. I'm trying to think of what that taste reminds me of. There's something that's like planty or grassy about it. That's really nice and light. There's some kind of like an apple juicy aftertaste or something too.
Yeah. Yeah, because it tastes like
a
when
fruit
you
peel.
swallow it, it tastes sweet, but the taste in my mouth is not sweet at all.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of
That's
like an
interesting.
apple peel
Yeah.
or something almost. That's
Wow.
really good.
digging
Also,
it.
9.3%.
Yeah.
You can't taste it. You don't feel any burn whatsoever.
Yeah, no, that's too smooth for 9.3%.
That's really good.
That's dangerous.
Now, Steve, the subject of today's show is none other than Dog Soldiers.
Soldiers
from
who are dogs.
2002? Is that right? 2002.
2002.
And this is one that people have been requesting that we cover for a long time. This is a favorite werewolf movie of a lot of folks out there.
But we're covering it in particular because Kev Bickerdike
Woo!
suggested that we do Howling at the June.
It's really good.
It's such a great idea. And so, we asked Kev what movie he would want us to do for this, and this was the movie he chose. no contest.
Yeah.
Dog soldiers. I had never seen this.
Right on, really?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about it, Steve. This is the first werewolf movie we've ever done on the show, which is
Never
very
done a
weird.
werewolf movie.
Well over into 100 episodes
we did
on here.
Trick or Treat, which has some werewolves in it, but
Monster
it's not
Squad
a werewolf movie.
has
And Monster
werewolves.
Squad has a werewolf in it, but it's not a werewolf movie.
Bram Stoker's Dracula has a werewolf
has
in
a
it.
wolf, and I'll explain a little bit about that.
Maybe tell me a little bit more about that. Yeah, so this is the first one that we've done, which I find very, very odd and very strange.
Right.
But ultimately, there's not that many great werewolf movies. Like,
Dude,
there's a lot of them, but are a lot of them really good? American Werewolf obviously is fucking amazing. Wolf Cop, yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, but I've heard that it's
need
ridiculous.
To see it. It's so great.
There's a Teen Wolf.
That's true.
I love Silver Bullet because it's ridiculous.
Silver Bullet is ridiculous. Late Phases is a great horror or a great werewolf movie that came
I
out
haven't seen that.
maybe 8 years ago or so.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that.
There's In the Company of Wolves, which I've heard is really interesting. It's
Okay.
kind of like a super sexual take on werewolves.
Ginger Snaps.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No, I didn't know there was a werewolf movie.
It is.
Huh.
Ginger Snaps. Got to check that one out.
Okay. There's the
The
Howling
Howling.
series.
Yeah, the Howling series, which gets extremely ridiculous, I believe, by the second part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like 100 of them. I think there's 5 or 6
Yeah.
of those things.
So many.
Well, Steve, in honor of this being our first foray
Yeah.
into werewolfdom, into lycanthropy, I suggest here that as we slip on into the preview palace,
Welcome to the Preview Palace.
I say that we drop on these bustas our top 5 best werewolf-based songs, starting off with number 5, Werewolves in London.
Wait, that's number 5?
Yeah, that's number 5. Listen, it just gets better.
Oh, it does. Okay, go.
Number 4, it's going to be Zombie Wolf by Frank Zappa.
Right. Duh.
Ooh, man, that's a quality item right there. Number 3,
Yeah.
I'm going to bust out a She-Wolf by Shakira.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, obviously,
duh.
that sounds a fucking 20 out of 10.
Right.
Oh, I love that song so much. That bass line, I can't get enough.
Who could?
Her cute little wolf howls.
How?
I'll take more, please. Strolling into number 2 right here.
Right.
I'm going to drop Of Wolf and Man by Metallica from the Black Album.
Boom.
Shape shift, nose to the wind. Yeah. Kick-ass song from the motherfucking Black Album.
Yeah.
And of course, that leads us to number 1. Bark at the Moon by the Prince of Darkness himself, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yep.
I mean, dude, you seen the music video for it?
I don't think so.
Rick Baker special effects.
What happens in it? I must have seen it. 'cause
Ozzy turns into a werewolf.
I must have seen it. I
real
watched
silly.
MTV all the time growing up. There's no way I missed it.
I mean, honestly, I was just kind of touting it as Rick Baker and stuff. It's actually not that good.
Oh, okay.
But the song kicks all the ass.
Well, duh.
Yeah. So now that we're done with that,
Now that we're done with that totally amazing, like, I didn't even know what was going to happen, but I'm
know.
very much liked it.
I know.
Yeah.
I can see you're on the edge of your seat.
I was like, because you started at Werewolves in London, which I would have just assumed was the only one that was
so you
available.
think. So you
but
think.
you had a ton to go.
Oh, yes.
I
There
thought
are
of-
more.
I tried to think of any others, and every time you said a new one, I was like, oh my gosh, where's he gonna go next?
Right, right.
You have me on
Some
the edge of my
some
seat.
people might be thinking I left Hungry Like the Wolf out. I don't know if it's about a
It's
werewolf.
not a werewolf.
though.
No, it's
not
just a
werewolf
regular
song.
wolf.
Yeah, just a
Yeah.
normal wolf song.
Hard to know the difference sometimes.
Right, right. Splitting hairs of these wolf songs.
Right.
You know.
That's you know what? Werewolves probably rarely split hairs.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, like, because a hair to them, that's not very big. They just eat it.
Barely a snack. They eat
Yeah.
a whole. Yeah, yeah. It's a good
Oh,
point.
I forgot. We also talked about What We Do in the Shadows. They have werewolves.
Yeah, they do.
We've covered 3 movies with werewolves, but not a single one that was
Dedicated.
about werewolves.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Interesting.
crazy.
Well, Steve, now that we got that out of the way, maybe you've got some information
I do.
about the history, lore, and presence of
Yeah.
werewolves
This is
all over human culture. through
this is
history.
something I threw into my class on the undead. I mentioned it again.
Wait. What class on the undead?
I taught a class on the undead at the University of Tennessee. Blah, blah, blah.
using my degree.
Yeah, I dedicated the last week to talking about other forms of what could be considered being undead, which was artificial intelligence and shapeshifters such as werewolves.
Interesting. I like
Because when the person becomes the wolf, do they exist anymore? Or is there something else completely different that's taken over? Mm-hmm. And that's seems to be how werewolves are generally portrayed, though we will be covering Prisoner of Azkaban soon, and there's a werewolf in that who seems to maybe have some human control when he's a werewolf. Remus Lupin.
Right. Oh,
but
spoilers.
Yeah, but that's not normal. Normally, once you become the werewolf, you're fully bestial. So, werewolf. There's an interesting thing I wanted to differentiate between werewolf and lycanthrope.
Okay.
Now, lycanthrope is the Greek word for a werewolf, and of course it was used in describing people who turned into wolves, but it was mostly used as a clinical diagnosis. There was a text about a man who believed himself to be able to turn into a wolf. And he would act very wolfy and eat raw meat and stuff like that.
He's a wild man.
It was described as lycanthropy. Werewolf comes from Europe, from Germanic sources, and werewolf means, of course, wolf man. Not very difficult to understand. So lycanthrope and werewolf both mean wolf man in different languages, and what kind of happens over time is that two different views of what a werewolf is come together and sort of clash, and we get what we kind of have today of what we consider werewolves to be. So I just wanted to give some idea of where this all came from.
All right, tell me some more about it here.
Earliest known depiction of a human shape-shifting into an animal is in a cave in southern France from 13,000 BC.
Now, that's not possible because the world's only 5,000 years old.
The world's only 5,000 years old. I'd forgotten about that.
So I'm throwing this bit of information out.
Not worth listening to.
Out with you, scientist.
I've talked before about how I'm very interested in those cave drawings, and I'm specifically interested in those in northern Spain and southern France. They're the ones that seem to demonstrate the most advanced creativity, where stuff like this, where they're like, what if a person could have animal aspects?
So those, you're not saying it's depictions of everyday life. It's like imagination.
Imagination. Really considering.
Imagination.
So we also know of then later gods would have the heads of animals. So there was this idea
Anubis and so on.
Right, yeah. So Egyptian gods in the Middle East and things like
bull-headed gods of Babylon and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those things had existed, but
do you think it's one of those things, sorry to interrupt, do you think it's one of those things that like humankind has always been perplexed and mystified by beasts and animals?
Well, I would say what it usually tends to represent is, and this is a theory about why people created gods, is that it's about control. Not being controlled, but controlling. If you feel like you can address the thing that could kill you, like if you feel like you can address a god of the harvest so that drought won't happen.
Ah, right. In other words, like when a bear is attacking you in the woods, you can't say, "Hold on now.
Yeah,
I have an opinion about this."
Right. So they're the forces of nature you can't control, but if you put them into a form, you can pray to it and hopefully beg it to give you what you want. So the gods that would have alligator, hippopotamus heads, etc.
That's very much the opposite of reality. Yeah.
Right, but you're basically saying like there's some wisdom to this animal and maybe I can control it in some way.
That's fascinating. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So werewolf comes through all sorts of mythology, and it's definitely a part of Proto-Indo-European mythology, but it specifically was tied to an aspect of initiation of the warrior class.
Oh my.
Yeah, so basically the idea was embracing the animal inside of you to be a more fierce warrior.
Okay, to help you go into like fucking battle mode.
Right. And so maybe you've heard of berserkers. They were like these Scandinavian warriors who would wear bear skins and take these...
Or nothing. Sometimes they'd go in just naked.
Just going naked, and they would take these insane combinations of roots and things that would make them just go ape shit.
Yeah.
And they would go into battle and kill ferociously without any, like, thought.
It's like they were on PCP or something.
Yeah, basically.
The Viking berserkers would, like, do these really intense prayers to Odin.
Yeah.
And the berserker spirit would, like, overtake them and shit.
And then they just go nuts.
Yeah. It'd be like techno Viking.
Yes, like techno
that.
Viking.
Pretty much like that. Yeah, I'd do that point.
Oh my god.
It looks stern.
He did look stern.
Quite serious. So this berserker thing, they'd kind of get the animal spirits within them.
Right.
And go rage.
And just go insane. The Christianization of Europe during the Middle Ages is what eventually made the werewolf become associated with negativity and the devil.
Man, ruining all the good
Christians
stuff.
always
Come on,
fucking everything
guys.
up. Christians always ruin the party.
I want them to bring it back. Listen, I know we've got a lot of Christian listeners that get really mad at us, but they continue listening to the show. At least bring werewolves back, y'll. I will start cutting y'all some slack if you make the werewolf a positive thing again.
So I just wanted to point to some very specific instances throughout history of werewolves that might help explain the way we currently think of werewolves. Mm-hmm. In Greek mythology, a Lycaon, who was a king of Arcadia, was transformed into a wolf by Zeus after there are several different myths. It's always like that, of course, in Greek mythology. But he either sacrificed a child on the altar of Zeus, or he sacrificed a baby and mixed it into food and fed it to Zeus to test and see if he really did know everything.
Bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it pays off.
Well, Zeus turned him into a wolf. And some of that gets extended actually to all of Arcadia. In some myths, the entirety of Arcadia is wolves. And in some myths, even, a guy goes swimming in an Arcadian lake and becomes a wolf. Like, just even the association with Arcadia made you a wolf. And what I started to see was that werewolf at that time was used basically to denote that someone was like a murderer and a cannibal.
Okay.
It was almost
couldn't possibly be all human.
Right. It was almost like, it was just like a way of making that association without having to say all those words. So you say like, yeah, they're wolfmen, and people get like, oh, so they're like murderers.
They're like animals.
Yes,
they live like animals. In
exactly.
Other words.
Yeah, they're not as advanced as us. Okay. And a lot of this had to do with impiety, and probably there was a belief among others that the Arcadians weren't pious and didn't hold Zeus in high enough regard or whatever. But this all like goes through then the Romans, and then there's of course the Germanic and Scandinavian mythologies about it that all sort of come to clash together. The Germanic pagan tradition was basically the berserker stuff, but specifically Harold the First of Norway had this entire leading fighting group known as the Ulfhednar.
That's my favorite black metal band.
Ulfhednar, yeah. That translates to wolf-coated men.
Okay.
And they were just similar to the berserkers, except they wore wolf skins.
Ooh, bold fashion choice.
bold fashion choice. That moved over into Kiev, which was at the time what would eventually become Poland and Ukraine and Russia.
That's where they make the chicken Kiev.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
They wrap chicken around some butter, and boom, it's a dish.
It can't be bad.
It can't be bad.
Sounds pretty dang great. Actually, I'd go for some of that about right now.
So this all gave rise to this like dual form of werewolf folklore, which basically is that in early modern Europe, the Germanic werewolf was associated with witchcraft and the witchcraft panic.
Brujeria.
Yeah.
The satanic panic of the 1380s or whatever that would be.
Well, the witchcraft panic went from the 14th century, well, actually around 1400 to about the mid 17th century. So 250 years of basically satanic panic. Yeah. But this is something a lot of people don't know. Mixed amongst the witchcraft trials were werewolf trials. There were people who were accused of being werewolves. Yeah.
I did not know about this.
In France, there were a couple that were unrelated to the church. Most of them were, of course, related to the church, just torturing and killing people because they're fucking insane. And when they have power, that's what they do. So
yeah. We've seen it time and time again.
So don't give them power.
Maybe that.
Yeah. So the thing about what was going on in France was that there had some actual evidence of killings and cannibalism, and this kind of got out of hand, and people started talking about these people were werewolves. And so there were a number of trials where people were accused of legitimate crimes. They had murdered people or they'd eaten people or whatever, but they were called werewolves. Like in the trial, like this person must. There's no way a human could. It's a
rationalization.
Yeah, it's a rationalization of there's no way a human could do that to people. He must have some sort of sorcery that makes him turn into a wolf and he can't control himself.
Right.
But then the other tradition is the Slavic werewolf, which is actually more closely associated with the revenant or vampires. And so that's where you get this bloodlust idea that like they actually need to eat humans to survive. It's not like werewolves for some reason can't just go eat a deer. Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
But that does happen in this, I guess. They eat a cow, but they seem mostly interested in eating humans.
Yeah. That's interesting. I've always kind of wondered, too, where, like, the whole... How werewolf ism and lycanthropy ties up with the moon cycles and stuff. I always wondered if there was some sort of way of dragging women into this. And,
well, that would be...
saying?
Yes, that would be associated with the witchcraft trials. But the association with the moon... isn't in all cultures.
Oh.
The earliest talks, like the earliest tales about it, like Marie de France's Bisclaret, it has a tale about a man who he takes off his clothes and puts on this magical belt and he becomes a wolf. But he has to put on his old clothes to become human again. Well, his wife is evil and she hides his clothes from him while he's a wolf, and then the king and his men go to hunt him, and he convinces the king that he's actually a man who's stuck in the form of a wolf, and the king then brings him back to court and lets him like live in court as a werewolf. And then one day his wife shows up with her new husband and he mauls them to death.
Wow.
And everybody's cool with it.
I sure do love those old European
because he's a cool
tales.
dude.
Dude, those old European stories are just wild as shit, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were getting into, but I'll have what they're having.
Right. Some other tales, it would be like a curse from a sorceress or an affliction, of course, by being bitten by another werewolf.
Yeah.
But yeah, the moon wasn't always associated, but I would say, yes, the association of witchcraft and werewolfery, an actual word I did not know until I started researching
werewolfery.
This. Werewolfery. They were associated at the same time, so I imagine, yes, that since they associated the witches with periods and things like that, they probably were like, well, I guess the moon has something to do with when they murder.
Right. Or these women must be turning these men into these wolves.
So the trials were interesting. There weren't that many, though they were pretty popular in the Baltic states for a while. Yeah,
they loved them.
Loved the werewolf trials. They were just all about them. What it seems to be, though, is that werewolf is what we were talking about, is a way to explain serial killing, or a way to explain a person who's normally just an average everyday individual doing something horrific.
So sociopaths.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it also became a way during the witchcraft trials and the werewolf trials, it became a way of persecuting people on the fringes. So one particular instance that I found pretty gross was that this guy, Peter Stump, in 1598, was accused of being a werewolf by political rivals. This is true. Like, this is so true of so many people in the past. When you read about horrific things someone did, you also read that they revealed that under torture and that they happened to be a rival of the church or the state.
Right.
Yeah. So, like, guys like Gilles de Rais, who is either horrific person who killed children and masturbated on their dead bodies, or he was an enemy of the Catholic Church because you refused to give them his lands.
Woo!
Yeah.
Aye.
And he also served with Joan of Arc, so they
Probably
were already
that.
pretty mad at him.
Yeah, it's probably that.
Yeah. So, yeah, it seems like Werewolf, with Peter Stump, like, he was just a guy who was in the way.
Boy, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Exactly. People in power tend to suck all the fucking time.
Wow, man.
But here's what happened, is basically, by 1650, like, the witchcraft trials and the werewolf trials were over, and this is the end of the Renaissance and the beginning of the Age of Reason. The Renaissance,
Enlightenment.
Yeah, the Renaissance was basically this huge spread of information, which made it possible for, the mathematics from the Middle East to spread throughout, the continent.
Sure, yeah. It was like the proto-internet.
Right, it brought all this great information, but it finally clicked in my head. That's where the spread of ideas about witches, vampires, and werewolves all comes from, is all these different areas saying, like, we have this, and we have this, and we have this, and then all of them coming together and forming the vampire or the werewolf that we
the
then...
archetypal figure.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting that the spread of information creates a spread of misinformation, just like we see with the internet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
And then that all starts to, because it gets so common, this spread of information, people come along who say, okay, let's collect the actual information from the disinformation. And then you get the Age of Reason, and then you get, the Enlightenment in the 18th century, where science is a thing now, where you're like, okay, this is the collected knowledge of humanity. We've taken all the information, we've put out the misinformation. This is what we know. Let's work to figure out exactly how this works.
Mm-hmm. The quantifiable truths.
Yeah. So werewolves, vampires, zombies, all those things are a byproduct of us developing science and learning to work together to understand the world we live in. We also created our boogeymen in that moment. It's really cool.
That's really neat,
I found it very
man.
interesting.
Do you have any information about why the wolf specifically? Why is it a werewolf?
Yes, I do. I'm glad you mentioned that, or I would have just forgotten this. Okay, so this is the prevailing theory, the one that I would say is correct, or at least that I subscribe to. The theory being that wolf attacks, up until the 20th century, wolf attacks on humans were an occasional but still widespread feature of human life.
Something that could just happen to you, sure.
Somebody in your family could be killed by a wolf, and there is no dealing with it. You can't go out and kill every fucking wolf to fix it.
Sure.
So, because they couldn't fix it, they had to control it in some way. The wolf actually only appears as the were animal in the European nations. In, say, Africa, there are tales of were jackals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's whatever's local. They shop local.
Yeah. You look all over in different areas. If, like, in the Americas, there were wolves, and so they have werewolf legends.
Right. Yeah.
But they also have, were all sorts of things all throughout. Asia has, I can't remember what in particular there was in Japan, but there's something very similar.
They have some legends about these, like, prostitutes that would turn into cats.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. That's really interesting to learn about. I think it is kind of convenient, though, isn't it, that all of these animals that people can transform into are all land-based animals. Right. How lame would it be to be like, I'm a were-eel?
Well, there were selkies and things like that.
Right.
Things related to what would become mermaids. But what we generally think of, we should do something with mermaids so I can talk about mermaids sometime.
Awesome.
But what we generally think of as mermaids today, and even when people have thought a little bit about it and been like, why did sailors think they saw mermaids? And it's like, well, they were lonely and they wanted to fuck and they saw these things and thought they were women.
Yeah.
it goes further. It goes way further back than that. There's more to it than that, and it's a fear of the sea and a fear of women.
I like the idea of a were-shark, though, where it's like if you're on dry land and it's were-shark time, then you just kind of start flopping around.
It's were-shark time.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm inland. Somebody please get me to a bath. This is going to be bad.
Is that a talking shark man? Talking shark man.
Talking shark man. I like that, too. That's pretty good. Interesting.
That's all I have to say about werewolves, and that's all I have to say.
And that's the bottom line.
Because Steve Spratling said so. People tossing me 9% IPAs. I'm hammered after
like,
3.
Oh, one is good. Thank you. Boy, I bet if you do the Stone Cold thing and just crush those things and kind of shoot them at your faces, I bet if that stuff gets in the eyes, it's burning.
Oh,
it's stinging.
Yikes.
Probably clear the old sinuses out pretty good.
Man.
What if there was a were-sloth? Like, what
there
if that
would be
was
nothing
a thing?
to fear.
Yeah, like somebody they do the whole transformation. They duck behind an armoire or a dresser. And then it's like they duck behind there and you're just standing there waiting with like your hands over your face like, oh my God, what's happening? And then you keep waiting and you're like,
oh, the suspense.
John?
Slowly see just a little sloth.
Little three claws. And you're starting to figure it out. It's like,
I think adorable.
I think they've become a were-sloth.
I believe so.
They're taking forever. Eventually, you just go behind the dresser and you're like, oh, yeah, definitely a were-sloth.
I'm going to, I guess, pick it up and put it in a tree?
I mean, just keep like 3 feet ahead of it at all times.
Right.
Like, there is no danger here. I mean, because really, if you got a were-sloth in the house, it's like you run a mile down the road. Mm-hmm. By the time they get to you, sun's up, crisis averted.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to deal with overall, the were-sloth.
Man, there probably are were-sloths.
I should think.
Like, why would we know about it? It would never hurt anyone.
You know, though, honestly, going back to your thing that you're talking about. About how throughout history the werebeasts have always been like whatever is responsible for like the most deaths and stuff in that culture. So you get werebears and stuff like this. What if we had a movie set in rural 2019 America where you were just a were-white? You come back, like you change and you turn into the most dangerous creature of all, which is
a white guy.
A white guy.
Yeah. Just hanging out with your pals, and they're like, "Man, full moon tonight," and you're like, "Oh, fuck, shit!"
It's gonna turn into a were-wane. And even like, you know, at one point in the story, like somebody's girlfriend gets bit, and then like she's like, oh, I feel a change, and she
just
ducks
turns
behind,
into a dude.
ducks behind a bar somewhere, and she comes and she's like, oh, what's up, bros? I just got my carry permit.
Aren't all women bitches, right? What?
The legend of Wayne.
Wayne. God, I'm glad you chose Wayne as the whitest name.
It's pretty white.
It is. It's my middle name.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is. I forgot about that.
It's very white.
So trademark that, lovely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now that we've learned so much, we're going to talk about the subject of today's episode, which is Dog Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers.
Dog Soldiers from 2002. And you said this is the first time you've seen this talkie.
First time I've seen it. And I was really surprised that I hadn't heard more about it.
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is the Predator of werewolf movies.
I can see a lot of Predator comparisons throughout this. Yeah. And a lot of comparisons to other movies and stuff too.
But I think werewolves they're really perfect for that Predator thing where you have a group of soldiers fighting in the woods against an unknown and much larger opponent that seems to be impossible to destroy.
That is totally the Predator thing. When you have this group of absolute hard-ass amazing dudes, which, by the way, listen to our Predator minisode.
Great episode
with
Andy Wood.
Yeah, with the good old amazing Andy Wood on there. It's a good episode. But you have all these super hard-ass, incredible soldiers, and then you see them getting killed by something, and you're like, golly, what is kicking their ass? Yeah, having a bunch of soldiers against a foe that seems not only formidable that can hold its own against these guys, but is also systematically taking them out.
Yeah, and
it's pretty badass.
Destroys the effectiveness of your guns. Like
right, yeah.
With Predator, it's because of his cloaking technology. With these guys, it's because they
got that Weapon X healing factor.
They're not completely impenetrable in this movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's great. The way they seem to take pain from the bullets, and they do have to recover from them, but they just recover faster.
Right.
Like
yeah,
Wolverine.
Right. Yeah. Snickety snicked.
Exactly.
So I had seen this movie before.
Oh, okay.
I mentioned at the end of the last episode where I was like, I think I've watched this before.
So watching it, you were like, no, I've definitely seen this.
Yeah, it was the one that I was thinking of. And I think I must have watched this around maybe, it was like during college days, like 2003, 2004.
Right.
It couldn't have been too long after it came out. I want to say we had some friends tell us it was really amazing. And I watched it then and honestly didn't love it.
Okay.
Didn't love it back then. And so I started this up this time and I was like, I wonder if this is that movie that I've seen. And I did recognize that it was the one. I still didn't really remember anything about it. So I might as well have been watching it for the first time.
Right.
What do you think about this thing, Steve? Did it get good to you?
I liked it.
Yeah?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. There's some funny moments. It also had... it just pays so much homage to great horror movies.
Yeah, definitely.
It really has a lot of the best elements of some great horror movies in a interesting, different, new way, which is the homages are clear. You want it to be a little less obvious.
There's some very obvious homage in this.
Yes,
yeah.
some very obvious. You want it to be a little less obvious, but I think this shows I love these movies. I love horror movies. I love these types of things. I want to write this. And that is the case in this with the production, is that Neil Marshall was a freelance editor for years before he ever got into making movies.
Wow.
And he had co-written something with someone, but he and his pals, the cinematographer and one of the producers,
they's mates, ain't they?
They's mates.
They's mates, they were.
They're Geordies from Northeast England.
Oh, they're Geordies, aren't they?
Yeah. Kev Bickerdike would know better what a Geordie sounds like, but they...
No, he wouldn't.
He would.
I'm nailing it. Thank you.
You are. But there's certainly Geordies. I watched a documentary about the making of this, and just hearing the way they talk was like, oh, that is unique.
That is a particular accent.
It's a very particular accent. Yeah.
Huh,
but
okay.
they had been saying the cinematographer was a camera operator at the time, and the producer was actually working in production, but they had been talking a long time about making a movie, how they really wanted to make a movie, and they came up with this idea. Neil Marshall came up with this idea with another producer, and he worked it out for 7 years. He wrote like 17 or 18 versions of the script.
Wow.
Just really making it happen.
But it's a pretty simple movie.
Well, that's the thing, is because after you've refined something 18 times, it's going to be simple.
Kind of boils down.
Yeah. You concentrate it to the perfect. And I think that this has all the perfect beats. It has a perfect tempo to it. There's never a real lull in the movie.
It's true.
It's got issues, some with the dialogue, I think, and some other maybe logic issues that we'll talk about. But
sure.
I think in the end, especially after watching the documentary, I really liked it more knowing that it was just these guys who really wanted to make a movie happen.
Right.
And they made it happen.
And they did it.
And it's good. Like, it doesn't have to be great. It's their first effort. But it's not bad at all.
It's more than I've ever made, and it would definitely be better than my first movie.
I imagine that's possible. Because they did get funding for it. And
I don't know, though, dude. We've got this idea for this movie called Space Yankees.
Well, yeah, Space Yankees.
That's going to be
huge. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
So Meth House Massacre. I actually wanted to talk about this in relation to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Meth House Massacre. I've been pricing it. I've been working on figuring out exactly what a budget would be. Mm-hmm. And I started watching this documentary, and they were talking about how it took them 7 years to get to the point where they got funding.
Wow.
And this is a great movie that deals with, I think, some real good effects, some guns, etc. So there's a lot in there that would cost money. There's a helicopter.
Yeah.
Like all those
There's
things.
miniatures, all kinds of stuff.
So I'd been pricing Meth House Massacre, and it's looking at like $150,000 for a 5-minute short.
Yeah.
And that seems so insurmountable. And I realized like how hard they had to work to secure funding for this movie that is werewolves versus soldiers. Like, if you told somebody you're working your ass off on making that, people would be like, why? Werewolves, who cares? But it's good. Like, who cares? Me. But you made this.
It's also, this came out in 2002, which means this had been being planned since the mid-90s.
Yes.
Which is to say a very, very pre-internet, I mean, God forbid, even pre-Kickstarter, GoFundMe, or anything like that. It's like, this was seriously...
This was going to people with money and asking them to give it to you.
Yeah, exactly. This wasn't, if I could take $1 from this person that supports me and $1 from this person, I'd have $2, and then I got to start. It wasn't really like that at all. Very different model, and especially too now that doing special effects digitally is something that is something that's accessible for pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking about guys that had an idea of full werewolf costumes, like miniatures and all kinds of other shit.
And the costumes, like, they look great.
Yeah, let's talk about the werewolves in this. We've seen many different forms of werewolves in various flicks and stuff. I mean, the classic Universal monsters, Wolfman, that is just kind of a hairy man.
Yeah. No, they didn't do any prosthetics or anything, just put hair on his face.
Right.
Yeah.
We got the ones that we see in like Underworld and shit like that.
Those are all CGI.
Right. Yeah, I think so. The one in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Right. The big black dog. Okay.
Oh,
so
man,
that actually comes from the combo of because Transylvania was this sort of gateway into Western Europe, sort of like just along that line. So the Dracula being able to turn into a wolf comes from that Eastern European tradition of the werewolf being a bloodsucker, and then the werewolf from the Western Europe hitting with that. Anyway,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Dracula is also kind of a vampire, or also kind of a werewolf.
Yeah. I love how the werewolf in that looks. He's kind of beastly and wolfish, but also kind of bat-like and gorilla-like in a way.
The face is very different. It's not wolfy.
And in this movie, they chose to go with the long, lanky, thin, long-limbed, skinny kind of vampire.
Very tall.
Very, very tall. That's the thing, is like we've seen these long, skinny werewolves in other movies and stuff before, but these are some of the longest, tallest ones I've about ever seen. I think that's probably about a 10-foot tall werewolf.
Yeah, they're up on stilts. It's dancers in the makeup.
I wish that the werewolves were literally on stilts, though.
The werewolves themselves just walking around on stilts.
Like somebody turns, they go through the whole transformation.
You would make in the backyard. Not like some fancy dancy stilts.
No. Exactly. And then they don their stilts. And we're all like, we don't. It's like everybody's like, we don't really understand why they do this, but we don't really want to tell them not to because it allows us to get away.
Yeah.
Just let those werewolves ride their stilts.
What about werewolves on pogo sticks?
Ooh,
there we go.
That I like. That's a visual I can get into.
Doing the flips toward you like on a pogo stick.
Maybe people that really like pogo sticks are actually like were-kangaroos, where they're just trying to live it out 24/7. You know?
I want to wear. Yeah, I hope were-kangaroo is a real thing.
A weregaroo.
It's a weregaroo. Watch out! They kick your guts out, mate.
Yeah, the werewolves in this look cool, and partially that's because they're all practical effects.
Yeah,
there's like no CGI in this.
None, really. I think they did some like After Effects, but nothing to the werewolves. Like those photos they show at the end are like real stills that look exactly. It's a person in a costume on stilts, and the heads look like actual wolves. Like it doesn't look like a person who's like turned into a wolf, it looks like a wolf.
Right.
I like that. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, they don't try to like make it a humanoid wolf hybrid kind of creature.
The body
in the
is the humanoid part. The head is a wolf.
And they're very clever about the way that they show it, because those wolf heads aren't, they're not like loaded full of servo motors and stuff that are fully articulated and everything. Yeah. They don't have a stiff kind of rubber look about them, like a Spirit of Halloween mask or anything. Yeah. But they definitely don't have a lot of moving parts or anything. So they're always very careful in the way that they show them. I mean, it's probably, halfway through the movie before you see a full body werewolf. It's just always been heads and hands. Yeah, even when
like the first time they're revealed the faces when they're surrounding the truck that they just destroyed, we still don't see their height in comparison to anything. We don't see them with their claws out or anything. Mm-hmm. The first time we see one is, and Neil Marshall did this intentionally, one comes through the doorway and like has to duck down to come in, so that when he ducks down, he stands up and it's just this like big intimidating creature. So dope.
Yeah, which is really well done, because at that point too, you've been in that cottage for a while and you've seen how like the scale of these big army guys inside of this house, and then you see that these things are damn scraping their heads on the ceiling. It makes you realize just how huge they are.
So cool.
There's one shot where you get a good full body kind of look at a few of them. I think as they're walking in the back door or whatever, towards the end. And you can tell that they're on, like a stilt, like something to make them look taller than they are. And they kind of look like they're wearing those, like, I don't know what they're called, but there's those boots that like raver chicks wear, like that are just kind of like knee down, big furry
You say wear,
things.
You mean wore.
Yeah, right.
Like in the mid-90s. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
But it's like just from the knee down, big like shaggy furry boot things.
Yeah, that is what it looks like.
That kind of took me out of it for just a second. You know what I mean?
They move great, but I know what shot you're talking about, and maybe not. Maybe they should have tightened that shot up a little bit and not shown that far down.
Something odd in this though is that for a werewolf movie, we are never treated to a real legit transformation scene.
No, the only one we would possibly see is either Davos. Sir Davos Seaworth is in this. Yeah. Liam Cunningham
playing himself.
Captain Ryan. Yeah, he plays himself. Liam Cunningham.
Seaworth.
But he starts to transform, then disappears behind a table, and then comes up as werewolf.
Yeah.
And then also Megan is about to transform into a werewolf, then gets shot in the head.
Yeah, she gets capped. That's kind of the classic werewolf thing, isn't it? To
show the transformation.
Well, I mean the whole like ducking behind a piece of furniture and then you come up as a werewolf.
Wolfman classic. Right. Yeah.
That's how it always goes. Like in the old ones, is somebody starts to turn, they're kind of starting to turn. Maybe their eyes change color, and then they duck behind a piece of furniture and come up. So I think the real thing that we need to learn to fear, if you ever find yourself in a werewolf movie,
if somebody's ducking behind shit,
you need to stay in them wide open spaces. Beware the furniture spaces. Which is why I want to run by my idea for a werewolf movie where you're never safe. It's going to be a werewolf movie set in IKEA.
Oh shit.
Exactly right.
What?
Behind every piece of furniture.
Behind a Bjorn? What about a fjord?
A fjord? Oh dude, you're definitely doomed.
Oh damn.
A werewolf would be popping up behind any of those things at any time.
Shit.
You best watch out.
That's why you don't go to IKEA unless you want some of that lingonberry jam. Am I right, guys?
Or those meatballs.
Yes, or those meatballs.
Or it whatever. Is a delight. Yeah, they got a lot of really quality items there.
Where's the closest IKEA?
Atlanta.
Jesus.
Yeah, there was going to be one like close to here.
Oh, yeah?
And then we decided that we didn't want jobs and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I hate jobs.
We heard that Sweden was north of Tennessee, so therefore Yankees.
Damn. Yeah. Damn Yankees.
Got to keep them out.
European Yankees.
So, yeah, stay away from any large pieces of furniture, y'all. Be careful. Watch out for yourself.
There's soldiers in this, and I don't know if you had the same problem I had, but I was like, why are these guys wearing those uniforms? Where are their red coats?
Yeah, really,
Where are their muskets?
I thought these were lobsters.
Yeah.
They looked like American soldiers.
Now, I know that this movie was very popular among British soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Really?
Yeah, they mentioned that in the documentary. that a lot of former soldiers from that time said, yeah, we used to watch that movie all the time.
Huh.
So if any of them are listening right now, we do not in fact think that British soldiers wear red coats and
Don't
carry
kill
muskets.
us, please. We are very killable.
Very much.
Low defense skills with these two. That's why we're entertaining. We have to be.
You have to be. You got to make the guy fucking laugh or something, right?
Exactly right. Otherwise, they will kill us with ease. So this is popular with the military crowd, huh?
It was for some reason. I think I get the reason.
Yeah.
A bunch of guys sent to a place on a false pretense end up getting killed.
Oh.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. I think
When you put it that way.
I think maybe a little bit. But I wonder if that influenced, because it seems like he would have had this script written well before the Iraq War and Afghanistan.
Right.
So that's just coincidence.
I guess so, yeah.
Though, I mean, Vietnam had happened and whatnot. So.
Plenty of pointless
Pointless
wars had
right?
happened by that point. That's a good point there. Now, this didn't get a wide theatrical release, correct?
It did not. Neil Marshall pretty indelicately said that the producers weren't brave enough with the movie. That basically the first people who came along to buy it, they sold it to for distribution rights, and that was the Sci-Fi Channel.
Back when it was
Here
still
in America.
SCI.
Yeah, back when it was very much science fiction instead of just that's the name of it. Yeah. Sci-Fi. SYFY.
Yeah, I remember like the early days of sci-fi where it really was just all sci-fi shit. It was all about aliens and space and yada yada.
Dave Bechet and I watched the other night and had a chat about Alien Apocalypse, which is an old sci-fi movie from around this time, actually.
Oh, yeah?
And it had Bruce Campbell in it.
No shit.
And
this movie has Bruce Campbell in it.
This movie does have a Bruce Campbell in it. Not the actor.
Not the Bruce, but
the character's name
Bruce
is Bruce
Campbell.
Campbell, which is, of course, I mean, there are tons of other homages to Evil Dead in this.
Sure.
But that's one of the very obvious
obvious ones, right.
But yeah, we watched Alien Apocalypse, and it's terrible. So.
Awesome. So they sold to Sci-Fi Channel, and it didn't really get a big theatrical thing, but it was on TV, I guess.
It was on TV, and not a lot of people saw it, I don't think. And then they also ran it for a week in one theater.
Ooh, prestigious.
Yeah. So, the reason why I think this movie isn't talked about more is because just not a lot of people have seen it, even though it's Neil Marshall, who he did The Descent.
Right,
He directed,
which we loved.
He directed a couple of episodes of Game of Thrones, one of which won an Emmy.
Wow. He did the Blackwater episode
Yeah,
or
he
something,
did the Blackwater
Right.
episode and the Watchers on the Wall. He did 2 Battle episodes.
Damn, I didn't realize he did both of those.
Yeah, he's
Holy
also
shit.
directed for Constantine, Hannibal, Westworld. He's the executive producer of Netflix's Lost in Space. Like, he's a well-known name. I'm surprised more people haven't gone, well, let's look at his first movie.
Right.
So maybe people listening right now, I know people from other horror podcasts listen. You go check it out. Maybe talk about it more, because it's definitely worth seeing to see where Neil Marshall started.
Interesting.
It's
I don't
a
know
very
if I've
interesting
seen
movie.
any of his other movies other than
The Descent.
The Descent. Yeah, I think The Descent, and obviously the Thrones episodes and stuff.
Right.
I think that might be the only.
Have you seen
stuff
Tales of
I've watched.
Halloween?
I don't think so. Which one is that? Is that the animated one?
It's an anthology.
Oh, no.
He directed one of the segments. It's good. Tales of Halloween is worth watching, especially around Halloween.
Yeah. Which is the best time of year.
The best time of year. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'll have to check out more of his stuff, because I know a lot of people like some of his other movies. I've heard that a lot of them have kind of good, strong cult followings and stuff.
Yeah.
So this movie definitely, like we said, has a lot of influences that it wears maybe on its sleeve at times. Because ultimately, if you kind of distill it down, you can see elements of Jaws here.
For sure, the opening is a Jaws opening, except for, the nude swimming. But the idea is these are 2 people who aren't main characters in the movie that are there to demonstrate the power of the creature.
Right. Yeah. And they get toasted right there in the intro.
Yeah, she gets ripped in half.
Right.
Which was fucking awesome. It was brutal.
It was awesome.
Like the blood just shooting back in his face.
Cool.
And they didn't even show that. Like, it was a genius way of shooting it, because it's what happened, but you don't see it.
Going back to the special effects, I will say that is one thing that I noticed, is that a lot of this movie, you don't exactly see what happens, but you see the after effects.
Yes.
You know,
it's smart.
Theater of the mind.
It's smart when you're dealing with dancers in wolf costumes to not try to show them actually causing the damage, because it's going to look jokey. It's going to look campy.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is like ultimately when you're dealing with gruesome gore and battle damage and stuff like that, the after effect is what's gruesome usually, not seeing it happen.
Right.
You know, but like when we see dudes' guts that are all hanging out and stuff.
Oh, man. See, that's a thing. Again, I could see why soldiers would like that about this movie, because that's a thing that soldiers see.
Yeah.
Is other soldiers' guts hanging out and helping them hold them and push them back in.
Yeah, that does happen in this.
Those guys don't always survive, but sometimes it's like, I had your guts in my hand, remember? That's fucking crazy.
That was a wild time, huh?
Yeah.
Damn. You know, there's also definite elements of aliens in this, where we have...
Oh, yeah. I thought you meant like there are aliens in this. But no, yes, there are several. There's the one particular that really just screamed it to me, is when the wolf is like right in the face of the soldier, and there's like the spit line from the wolf and the soldier.
Oh, yeah. That's very much...
Very aliens, yeah.
But even just the fact that there's this guy who is trying to capture a werewolf and bring it back to militarize it, make it into a weapon. I mean, that's aliens right there. And fucking, was it Paul Reiser in there trying to do that?
Paul Reiser, yes.
He's trying to get one of those aliens and bring it back to weaponize it. And it's like, that's something that happens in this movie.
And then it didn't work out, so he was like, I'm going to go marry Helen Hunt.
Yeah, maybe I'll try this out.
About you.
I don't like that show.
It was very adult.
It was, and it was just kind of depressing, and
yes,
I didn't love it.
Oh, I remember the episode where, because this used to be a thing people did to their babies, where they let their baby cry it out.
Right.
It was supposedly supposed to help the baby feel more in control or whatever. Okay. But now no one would suggest that you help. But there was an episode of Mad About You where they were letting the baby cry it out, and they were out in the hallway, and the baby was crying the whole time, and that was like super serious.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was like, oh man, having a baby sucks.
That's how I felt when I watched Eraserhead. A very similar premise.
And that is what happens every single time. Babies look like that when they come out, and then they become normal.
Yeah.
Some of them.
And of course, obviously, we said the Predator influences this whole group of commandos.
That's the thing that I think is the like, even though it's not that they do a ton of like references to Predator, it's like the whole story itself is basically Predator,
right? And
then they do the wolf predator vision, but there's no like arm still firing a gun that's been ripped off or anything.
Yeah.
But it's got so much of the Predator and its roots that I think it's probably the biggest influence. Maybe
I see a little bit of Michael Jackson Thriller in this as well. When people start to turn, they get those yellow slit eyes contacts. Man, that Quincy Jones knew how to write a song.
Wait, what about, have you seen Indian Thriller?
Oh God, yes.
Girly ma, girly ma.
Dude, it is amazing.
Yes, it is.
It is the best. Yeah, so a little bit of Thriller influence and stuff in there. And like we said, it's riddled with all kinds of other stuff. There's one of the dudes is named Wells, and his name is H.G. Wells, or Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. There's a lot of homage to so much. It really is just a horror lover finally getting his opportunity to make a movie. But it doesn't fall into what I would say is a terrible trend in horror of, remember this person from that horror movie you liked? They're in here, and they're 70 now.
Right.
Like, there's not a whole bunch of that. Like Hatchet. That's the entire Hatchet series.
Oh,
it's just
man.
Everybody who's introduced is, remember they were in that movie. Remember? You remember that?
Well, you hate those Hatchet movies.
I do hate them.
One day we'll talk about them.
I also like watching them. I would seriously, if I could meet the guy who created those, I would be very happy to talk to him, because I love so many of the kills and I like a lot of it. But the thing that I really hate about it is that constant reminder of, it's like going to a horror conference. but like there are also kills in it. It's like, here's all these people from all these movies you've seen before. Yeah, I know. You could have just hired other actors, but I also think like a lot of those people maybe need money, so I'm glad the Hatchet movies exist.
What if it became a thing at cons that washed up horror movie actors, you could pay like $50 or whatever and watch them like actually get killed in a way that they died in a movie?
Wait, how would they collect the $50?
It's, don't worry about it.
All right. We'll iron out the details after we've gotten everything together. After we got funding.
Trademark Dead and Lovely. Okay, I'm just saying. Just gotta go ahead and take care of this right now.
Oh, I don't know if that's such a good idea. but
maybe it would.
Maybe, yeah. Somebody out there is probably like, yeah, okay.
I mean, I'd be interested. I'm not gonna lie. Speaking of kills, what do you think about the kills in this movie?
Oh, man. The one that I liked the most is when that guy gets out to the barn, to the car, and turns on the headlights, and there's the guy who got ripped out of the window earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And the werewolf rips his head off and throws it at the car.
He gives it a toss, didn't he? Like he was trying to have a game of footy, wasn't he?
He was. It was footy, for sure. I like that British people can be so serious, but like then also they have all these real cutesy names for things.
A lot of cute things, yeah.
But like,
I'm gonna go out and fight my mates after a game of footy. I'm a real hooligan, I am.
I'm an hooligan.
An hooligan, I am.
Hooligan, that's just cutesy to me. When I hear the word hooligan, I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah, I think
that's like, no, these guys are gonna hit each other with bricks after this.
You're gonna die. Like, I was killed by a hooligan.
What? That sounds so cute.
I think about like when my brother and I were like 5 and 6 years old and just getting rowdy, and my mom would call us hooligans.
Yeah. Heathen was what my...
Oh, heathen. That's a good one too.
Which, for anybody who's not Southern, that is heathen with an R thrown in, because that's how we do it in the South.
Yeah, and because that's also how we believe non-religious folks act.
Yep. Non-religious folks, they jump on the bed. Bunch of heathens.
They body slam their brother on the carpet.
Yes, they do.
Dude, by the way, P.S. Speaking of redneck
body slamming your brother on the carpet.
Yeah. If you guys don't follow Little Bubby Child on Instagram...
Wait, hold on. What is this?
You are missing
Little
out.
Bubby Child?
Little Bubby Child.
Okay.
Little Bubby Child is this feed that you can follow on Instagram, and this guy just does these like one-panel comics.
Okay.
And he's a guy that I'm quite sure grew up around here.
Okay.
Like literally right here.
Right.
Because he references like Sevierville and shit, like Bristol and Johnson City all the time. Like he's one of us. But he does these little these little one-panel comics of just like redneck shit that he has like overheard people say, or like a family member has told him.
Yeah.
And he writes all the text like phonetically as well. Okay, so there's like this one of my favorites is this old lady who's like holding her 2 like little tiny yippy dogs. And it says something like, I need y'all to hold my little Jesse and my little Nathan in your thoughts. They ain't sick or nothing, but I can tell they got a lot on their mind. But it's just all this shit that's just like, I've heard people say shit like this.
Oh my God. So we used to collect these sayings, some friends of mine.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites that my friend Chris overheard, and you have to understand the context of this, in the Fast Stop. You know the Fast Stop in Jefferson City?
Sure, yeah.
On, what is that, 92?
Uh-huh.
A gas station. A man opened the door as though it were his bar that he comes into regularly.
Kicking the saloon door down.
Open the door and he says, "Guess who's taking me to court on the 18th saying I beat her." To the entirety. But he was talking.
But they did know him.
They
knew
him.
Everybody
they were like, "Who?
It's that Linda again, ain't it?"
Yeah, like, what the hell?
That is
Rednecks
incredible.
walk into gas stations like they own the place. That's
Holy
like
shit.
one of the.
That's
part
thing.
of our DNA.
Yeah.
Because I used to hang out at that Fast Stop.
When
I was
at gas
14,
stations. Yeah.
we would walk down there and we'd get like a soda and a candy bar and just hang out.
How about some peanuts and a Coca-Cola?
and put it peanuts
Hell
in the
yeah,
Coke.
you'd put them in there. Just get all your salt and sugar for the day all at once.
I hope so many. I seriously, because we have a lot of British listeners, but I hope we're getting even more just because of this title, and they're like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
That's proper insanity, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going down to Tesco to hang up.
What's the opposite of jolly good?
Jolly bad.
Jolly bad, I say. Jolly bad.
Jolly bad show.
Putting the peanuts in the soda pop.
Yeah.
What's next? Popcorn in the sarsaparilla?
I think it's appropriate in a movie that's about Geordies that two Southern men are talking about hanging out at a gas station, because like they're the Southerners of.
Are they?
Yeah, basically Geordies. They have a show called Geordie Shore, which is the Jersey Shore of
Jesus.
England.
Oh.
Yeah.
Does it smell as bad as New Jersey does?
I bet it does.
New Jersey smells
It's
bad.
less comprehensible than the Jersey kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some pretty cool kills and stuff in here. I like when dude gets his guts all ripped out. That dog's all tugging at the bandage. I thought that was
I thought
an
that was the guts the
intestine.
first time, but
Yeah.
it was the bandage. Yeah. It could have been the guts and still logically consistent, because he survived a werewolf attack and it's the full moon. He's turning into a werewolf.
Yeah, his healing
so he's
factor's
healing
up.
fast. Yeah.
Right. One of the parts in this that I think definitely made me squirm the most is there towards the very end. There's that werewolf that's been like impaled by the sword. Which I love. I
Captain
love
Ryan.
That. Yeah, there you go. The fact that this thing has a sword sticking out of its chest
And
adds,
it's just no big deal.
and it adds extra threat.
Yeah.
It's like not only are you being attacked by a werewolf, it's a very pointy werewolf.
Yeah.
That's extra bad.
If I were a werewolf, I'd just stick swords all through myself and go
Right.
running at
Just
people.
run at people. That's the way to do it right there.
But they do demonstrate in this movie that the werewolves feel pain.
Yeah.
So like, it sucked for him, but also I guess he probably couldn't get it out.
Hashtag
they didn't
worth
seem
it.
to have good reach.
Like motor skills.
Right.
But dude, when it's got that dude pinned to the wall, it's got Coop pinned to the wall, and it's like going through his fucking teeth.
Yeah, the sword is like right on his teeth, and it makes
man
that scraping
alive.
noise.
Oh god, dude, that did make me ball up in my seat a little bit right there. That's a very like Fulci move.
A scene that made me squirm a bit, but had like personal resonance, was where they're trying to super glue his wound.
Woo, man, he's got to get getting fucked up before he does that though.
The actor Sean Pertwee, who we've seen before in Event Horizon, he was the pilot. He wanted to do it method, so he told Neil Marshall, "I'm gonna have a few drinks.
I'm gonna get properly tossed."
Well, no, he just said he was gonna have a few drinks.
Okay.
And Neil Marshall was like, "Oh, okay." And then he went and got fucking shit faced, basically.
All right.
So he's not acting drunk in that scene.
Oh, I'm proper
drunk.
pissed, aren't I?
And because he was drunk and they, is hard to coordinate than fake punches.
Yeah.
The first punch hit him in the nose.
Oh. Yeah, because he hits him like twice. He's like, knock me out.
Yeah, the first punch hits him in the nose and he calls him a pussy.
I'm trying to remember. I think that's a continuous shot.
It is.
So it's not like he hit him, then they stopped.
No,
He's
he
like,
got hit and his drunk ass was like,
me.
bring it, motherfucker.
So he was fucked up. That's pretty.
I really dug
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah, and they kind of like glue him up.
That's what happened to my neck, by the way. Like,
You super glued it?
well, not me. The hospital. They do that is normal for wound care now, because it actually, instead of doing stitches where you get then stitch holes that heal up maybe scar, if they can, they'll super glue it. Like I had stitches on the muscle on my neck.
Jesus Christ. This, for those of you guys who are listening that don't know, Steve got his fucking neck cut wide open by a bum with a box cutter a couple years ago.
I did.
Whoa, dude. So it's like a medical grade super glue. It's not what you buy at fucking
Well,
the dollar
I mean, it's
store.
like they say in this, that super glue was developed for sealing up wounds quickly in war. They have stronger stuff now, like Dermabond and whatnot, but like super glue is still pretty much the thing they go to for closing up wounds if they can. If it's not jagged. Mine was luckily done with a razor, so it was straight.
You know
I say
what?
luckily.
Yeah.
I almost had my throat cut.
Hashtag blessed. But it was with a box cutter that was sharp and clean.
That was nice of him. I don't know that it was clean because I had to go back a day later because I had 103-degree fever.
Woof.
Oh man, that was tortured. They tried to put an IV in me, but I was dehydrated.
Ooh,
and
your veins are all dried up.
They wouldn't give me water. Going to the emergency room is the worst because they all assume you're there for drugs.
Right. And a lot of people are.
I went to the same hospital where I got my neck repaired. A day later, I was in the ER. I was telling the nurse what happened, and she was like,
got it.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Somebody attacked you. Sure. I still had the bandage.
And you want some pain pills.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, huh?
Oh, fuck.
My God.
American
Is that the one time you wanted to be like,
worst.
I'm a Mormon?
I did say that. I was
Really?
I said, I am a Mormon. I don't do drugs. That was back when I didn't do drugs.
Right. And when you were
I were
Mormon. And when your throat was cut wide open.
Yeah, I was a different person then. There were 3 major differences.
Open throat
cut
Steve,
wide open.
we called you.
Open throat Steve.
That could be a sexy porn.
You know what?
Old open throat Steve. Just always with that throat open.
That probably is a gay porn.
It has to be.
There's got to be a guy named Steve who's known for just deep throat and dick.
I think that the same story about a guy with a gash cut in his throat was written by the Marquis de Sade.
That sounds like something he would do.
Oh, saucy.
In 120 Days of Sodom, I do believe there's some corpse fucking.
Yeah?
For sure, yeah.
Maybe some wound fucking or something.
I don't know if there's any wound fucking, but maybe there is.
I'm just going to suggest nobody Googles wound fucking.
Yeah, that sounds gross.
I'm going to say stay away from that.
Oh, God, that probably exists, though.
I mean, the thing is that's the rule of the internet.
I mean, we did talk about this in community college. We called it T-boning.
T-boning,
Yeah,
that's
do you remember
right.
that? Yes.
Oh my God, it's been forever. Break it down for him.
You cut a hole in someone's side and you fuck it.
That's what we call it, T-boning.
We call it T-boning. And, of course, that's disgusting.
Boy, we were weird in college.
No.
We're normal now.
No, yeah, everything's fine now.
Yeah, we're totally normal citizens now. You know, I will tell you one of my problems with the cast of this movie. Everybody was a pretty good actor. I don't think that there's really a lot of bad acting. Mm-hmm. I could not tell these fuckers apart.
Yeah, they all have the same haircut and look similar.
They're just all pasty white guys with short hair.
Some of them. Cooper is blonde.
And his accent is different than
his
the others
accent
too.
is different. Sean Pertwee I recognize just because I know him from other stuff. He's Alfred in Gotham. Like he's a guy.
So I didn't know him, so I was just like another pasty short-haired guy.
And then of course Liam Cunningham you recognize. And
Yeah,
then
Davos,
there's the lady.
Which P.S. he looked so much younger in this. Davos.
He was.
I mean, that's the thing though. It was like 2002.
It's not that far away though from Game of Thrones, is it?
That's what I'm saying. Like Game of Thrones started 8 years ago or something like that.
I wonder if like they try to play up his age with like makeup and stuff. Because he would if
A great
he looked
beard will age anybody.
Yeah. Because I've seen him in interviews. He doesn't look that old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is too though is that this movie isn't exactly shot in the highest of resolutions.
No, it is not. And there are certainly moments that don't look good still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that this movie really honestly looks like it could have come out in 1996 or 7.
Yeah. Well, that's the budget they were working on. It's real low. But, I mean, yeah, it was like 2.3 million pounds, which I think is close to $4 million in that time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot, especially considering the practical wolf suits, the explosion. Like, that's not a lot of money.
Right. That is true. But it just kind of reminds me so much of like when I was a kid, and anytime you'd watch something in like the 80s or early 90s that came from Britain, it looked like it was from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, like a British show from 85 looked like it was filmed in 75.
That is true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's that's funny. I imagine that has to do with like Margaret Thatcher's austerity measures and stuff because the BBC it's publicly funded, isn't it?
I have no idea.
Or is it funded by the Queen? I know that you can't say anything negative about the Queen on BBC.
God save the Queen.
You could probably say that.
Yeah,
But
it's
you
the
couldn't say,
BBC, innit?
fuck the Queen, you know? Couldn't say that. Our British listeners are like, what? No. I don't think the monarchy's that popular.
Oh no, he bloody well didn't.
He didn't say that. Not about old Bertie.
I'ma go full hooligan on him.
Get the bricks, mate.
Don't tell me, Mum. I'm going to be jumping on the bed like a real hooligan.
There's one particular soccer riot where people used newspapers and a rock to make like a tomahawk type of thing.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and they tested it on something. Maybe it was Mythbusters, maybe it was Modern Rogue, which is a YouTube show that is very awesome.
Yeah.
Basically Mythbusters in a lot of ways. But yeah, them hooligans.
They made me and my brother seem quite innocent by
That's
comparison
true.
with our bed wrestling.
So bed wrestling, honestly, not even that bad in comparison to hooliganing.
Professional hooliganery.
Hooliganery. That's it, yeah.
But I did have a real problem distinguishing who was who in this movie. Like, that's one of those things that, and we talked about it on the Predator episode, they did such a good job of making those characters individual, you know? And I realize in this, it's like, okay, they are on a military training exercise. They would all be wearing matching fatigues and having their heads shaved and not having any personal artifacts on them or anything like that.
Also, no military man is that muscular because there's no advantage to being that large when being shot at.
Yeah, you're making yourself a bigger target.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, the characters, mostly the characters that get killed, you're right. They are pretty indistinguishable.
Yeah.
Spoon.
Spoon.
I say Soap because the guy who voiced Soap McTavish in Modern Warfare 2 and 3 and also played Tommy in Trainspotting.
Oh, yeah, he's in here, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's in Trainspotting, isn't he?
He's in that Trainspotting. I want some heroin, don't I? I haven't seen Trainspotting in a while, but I feel like that's what happens.
Sure that's it.
Yeah.
Describe Trainspotting in one sentence. Oh, I want some heroin, don't I? That should be a new YouTube series, just movies in one sentence by Ben and Steve.
I'm fine with that. That'd be short videos for sure.
We've got Megan in here, who they come across. Megan's kind of an interesting
zoologist
character in this movie.
Yeah.
Wild card.
When we first see it, she comes along in a Jeep, and it seems like happenstance, but it turns out she had heard bullets firing. But we also see like she looks in the rear view and sees Captain, what's his name? She sees Davos.
Yeah, Captain
And
Roy.
they exchange like a glance that's like, what's going on here? And then she's revealing stuff, but then it's also like there's so many more questions to everything she reveals. But you also don't get that immediately. You're like, oh, this is weird. Just somebody out in the middle of the forest. No, there's this house where a meal is set up, but nobody's there.
Yeah. At that point, it just kind of became sort of obvious that it's like, oh, the people that were here turned into werewolves, right?
Yeah. Interesting thing I noticed on my second watch through, though. That meat in the stew, human meat.
I had not considered that.
They're talking about the meat, and they say, what sort of meat is this?
They
and
make a reference to it, yeah.
One of them says, I don't know, I think it's pork. But then
people
later,
say that human meat tastes a lot like pork, yeah.
Later, when he's down in the cellar, there are all those bodies hanging, meaning they keep those bodies around to eat the meat. So the meat.
Why else would they be down there hanging?
Right. Also interesting about those bodies, they were props from Event Horizon.
Yeah, I read that online, which is pretty cool to know.
Yeah.
Way to be resourceful, guys. Reason props.
Anyway, so yeah, like all that setup is suspect, and that's good. It keeps the tension because you're like I don't trust her exactly, and we know Captain what's his name is a bad guy because he shot a dog at the beginning of the movie.
Oh man, clearly any villain will shoot a dog.
Yeah, and I thought that was a very perfect scene to set up the protagonist and antagonist. We learned that Cooper wouldn't shoot a dog for no reason, and that this guy will.
Right. Yeah.
It immediately shows us he's good, he's bad.
And that's the thing about this too, is I think that a lot of the dynamic of this movie kind of plays with the idea of dogs. I mean, it's like a werewolf. A wolf is a modified dog of sorts. I mean, really, a dog's a modified wolf,
dog.
To be honestly,
the other way around.
Yeah. P.S. It's Frank Zappa reference. Evelyn, a modified dog. The elite Zappaite will be overjoyed that I just mentioned that. Anyway, so we got these werewolves that are dog-like. We've got these soldiers that are trained to obey and do the biddings of their masters. Right. Which we also see as being very dog-like. And I think it's interesting that in this movie, it's kind of the one that fails training. You know, Coop is the guy that...
he fails his training with the Secret Service guys or whatever they are. Not Special Forces.
Special Forces, like his domestication doesn't work.
Because he refuses to be that. And so he's being this good guy. He's like Sean Pertwee's character. He's being this good guy and learning from him instead of... But he had the opportunity to turn to the dark side. He's our Luke Skywalker, I guess.
Right.
He's got his opportunity. He rejects it. He proves he's our hero early on and then continues to prove it.
And we find out that basically Cooper and his entire group of dudes that he's with were essentially just used as bait.
Yeah, they were called out to bring out the werewolves, and then the Special Forces guys were supposed to be there to capture one.
Right.
Basically, but the werewolves show up the night before and kill the Special Forces guys. Now, that's
a little unclear.
Yeah, that's a little unclear because there's never any full statement that the full moon is a necessity for them to be werewolves.
Right. That's never explicitly said.
So it may be that they are strongest at a full moon, but they can be werewolves around the full moon. Maybe there's a week of time where they can do it. I mean, that fits with werewolf mythology. There are other stories like that where you have to be a werewolf for a week or you're always a werewolf or whatever, but they're definitely not only on the full moon.
It must seem that way, because otherwise, like you said, it's like, how could have Davos's battalion been killed before the full moon?
And also, apparently,
but you know what? Here, I'm gonna say this does kind of contradict that, in that it takes such care in the intro during all those confusing ass time jumps that it does, where after that chick gets ripped in half, which is during a full moon,
right?
4 weeks later is where this picks up. So it's taking care to show us the next moon cycle.
Right.
That's when this starts.
Yeah. So that
might be a problem.
There are some inconsistencies. I mean, there's also the issue of Megan and like how she's not a part of this family, but they basically just turned her and she became a part of this family.
That's never quite clear.
It's never really clear.
Yeah. They have the whole thing where they're like, oh, you're not in the picture because you're the one taking the picture, but you're a part of this family. How come she doesn't turn when the other ones turn?
She seems to try to control it because she doesn't want to be a werewolf.
Does she not want to be? Because
that's what it
she seems loyal to them because she
does
seem
loyal to them, but it seems like she doesn't want or at least I'm assigning that motivation to her because it's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, right.
But the movie doesn't make that clear. There are definitely those logical inconsistencies that are hard to overlook because there was already a revelation about her, basically. Like, we get too many revelations about her. There's too many twists with her.
Yeah, I don't think that there really needed to be so many, honestly. Like, whenever
she didn't need to be a werewolf.
No, like, that didn't make me go, oh, shit, whoa.
The fact that she had something with Captain Ryan and she had been working with him and she knows more than she's letting on, that's enough.
I mean, it would have been, honestly, more interesting to me if she was kind of a... what do they call it when a vampire has like a human that does a Renfield kind of character?
Yeah.
I mean, if she was basically the Renfield... Thrall, is that what it is?
Not positive.
Yeah. That basically lures these people there as food. Like a familiar?
No? Is that it?
It's something like that. Yeah, I can't remember. A Renfield. Let's go with a Renfield.
Yeah.
You know?
A Tom Waits.
Yeah, a Tom Waits, it's known as. That would have been more than enough for me. I think that would have been fine.
That would have been fine.
But one thing that I think that we do get out of this with that whole thing I was talking about a second ago about how Coop and his whole group, you kind of assume that they're the ones where the training didn't take, where they wouldn't be obedient to their masters and be dogs and stuff. Ultimately, it's those guys that are self-interested and have their means of self-preservations or thinking for themselves and not just following orders. They're the ones that end up, essentially beating or surviving the pack animals that act as a group.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like some sort of individuality over pack mentality type of thing.
I think that's something that you see running through here. I mean, Coop is pretty much the only one that survives, but it's because he isn't just part of a pack.
I like that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's something that I got out of it anyway.
Yeah, I'm digging that. Individuality over just following a pack mentality.
I'll tell you an oddly specific complaint I have about this movie that just bug me. Sound design issues.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about this. You were saying this issues. Earlier.
Yeah. So
I heard a couple of instances where I was like, ooh, there was one instance where they switched angle and the sound completely changed. And it was like, okay, I didn't realize that the angle changed, but like, did you not get sound from that other angle?
Yeah.
Like, we need one consistent sound here.
It's one of those things, man, where sound design stuff where you're talking about people laying in sound effects for certain things, whether it be punches or gunshots or whatever. It kind of is like that thing that the great bass player Victor Wooten says about playing bass.
Okay.
He says that playing bass, good bass playing is kind of like a house having a good foundation.
Right.
Where nobody ever walks into a house and goes, wow, the foundation is great. You only notice it if you walk into a house
and it's not great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the floors are slanted, and there's like a marble rolling downhill into the next room. That's when
why do you
notice
guys keep so many marbles?
Yeah. Usually I don't notice things like sound design. There's fucking Oscars for it and stuff, and you're like, what do you mean? Every movie has good sound. But you do notice it when it's bad.
Yeah, that's true.
And in this movie, there were so many, especially gunshot noises, that I know have been recycled and in 8 million things and video games and shit like that. There's certain sound effects that stick out in my head that I've heard used over and over. I mean, whether it be like a Wilhelm scream that's in a million movies, but there's one in particular that's in a ton of movies.
The people clapping, and then you hear someone go, "Oh man, yeah!" I hate hearing that, by the way.
Dude, there's one of children laughing.
Okay.
It's just kind of this thing that's in 8 million fucking movies, and it drives me insane.
Okay.
One that ends up in a lot of movies, especially sci-fi stuff, is the door opening sound from Doom. Whenever you open a door and it goes, beep, it's in a lot of sci-fi stuff. It's not in this, but I'm saying a lot of the gunshot noises and stuff like that are obvious recycled things that are not coming from those guns and are not, and again, this is oddly specific, but definitely not the sounds of how those guns or whatever would sound in that room.
Okay, yeah.
It sounds like those gunshots are taking place on a soundstage, not inside of a cottage.
Yeah.
And again, I know that's oddly specific, but it's one of those things where every time stuff would start being shot, I would be like, okay, there's no big percussive compressed sound that firing a heavy rifle or assault rifle in a small room would have.
Yeah,
I know that's weirdly dialed in, but it really bugs me.
If you notice it, it's an issue.
Yeah,
like, yes, it's worth talking about for sure.
Also, guns with no recoil always drives me insane. People just fire these heavy assault rifles and there's no kickback whatsoever. It just always kind of bugs me.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are some things that, like, just tiny things that get everybody, and I think usually it has something to do with the thing you're most interested in. Like, my wife hates it in movies when someone rips their IV out. Because if they did that, they would be squirting blood out of like
that does happen in movies and stuff all the time.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
No.
Oh, I was planning on trying it one day.
I mean, it's possible, but it's
you don't want to
damage your. Yes, you're gonna have blood squirting out.
People do just kind of yank those things out pretty casual.
They do it all the time.
Yeah.
I absolutely. Speaking of needles and blood, I absolutely hate every time I see in a movie that they insist on showing that they have a fake needle. Like, we didn't all grow up with mechanical pencils. We know that you can make a needle look like it's going into a vein. We don't need to see it every time. Just the motion with the needle towards the vein. Got it. I know where that's going. Don't need the close-up of the needle going in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You pay attention to stuff that bugs you, and like, obviously, playing music and stuff, sound design stuff bugs me. This also just has that. I've mentioned this before. Cheap European soundtrack.
Yeah,
it just sounds like stock Euro movie.
I would say
and TV
a lot
soundtrack.
of this has to do with just budget.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Like, if they had a friend who was a sound designer, it would probably have sounded better.
Yeah,
but
it sounds like all stock, like royalty free music and soundtrack and stuff. Didn't
there's
really do
not
much
a lot
for
to
me.
say. And then, of course, they play Claire de Lune.
Yeah, Claire de Lune's in there. Yeah,
which is
a
Moonlight.
Moon reference. Yeah. And there's a lot of other little, just kind of fun things like that they buried into the movie. There's references to all kinds of fairy tales, like Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in there. Like I really liked, and of course, Neil Marshall had so much time with the script. You're going to be able to do that. You're going to be able to throw in these little things. But then you also have things like the Matrix reference.
There's a Matrix reference in
There
this.
is no Spoon, they say, after Spoon dies.
That's
I didn't like that.
I didn't really like that. That's one of those things that's just like, so you're telling me this came out while the Matrix was still relevant. Got it.
Yeah. There was also, when Megan was giving her like final sort of like I'm a vampire speech, or I'm a werewolf speech, she had so many quips that it was like, it seemed very obvious they were like, okay, we're gonna record these and we'll pick the one we like.
Yeah, let's do these for options.
But instead they were like, no, we'll put them all in. And I just wanted to read some.
Yeah, give me a few of these here.
I just didn't like these at all. So
give me these in like a wrestling promo kind of way.
Being nice to women will get you nowhere, brother.
That's what she says. Then she says,
you may think they're all bitches, but I'm the real thing.
I mean, that's bad. That's
real bad.
That's like a Luna Vachon quote.
And then, of course,
it's that time of the month.
Oh, dude, that was the one where I was like, did you really have to?
Yeah.
Did you really have to do that?
Though, I mean, I get, like, because you were asking about it.
Yeah, that's true. I did bring it up. Yeah,
and
right.
Ginger Snaps is an entire movie that basically is that sort of idea. Yeah, that it's relatable to a period, a 28-day cycle.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's funny because, like, as I was watching...
it is a bad line. It's a cool concept, but it's a bad line. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, because as I was watching, I was thinking about that stuff, like I said, moon cycles and getting ornery and bloodthirsty and stuff. I was like, I wonder if anybody's ever done like a period werewolf movie.
Watch Ginger Snaps.
I guess Ginger Snaps, huh? Right on.
Catherine Isabel's in that. She's great.
What do you think about the very ending of this movie? We've got our main guy...
Predator ending. Well, Predator ending, but then the very ending being...
Tabloids.
Yeah, him going back and saying my platoon was killed by werewolves. And of course, people reacted the way they would react, which is, no, you're crazy. And the only people that would show it is a tabloid that shows it under the score of that footy game they kept talking about.
Which is fun.
It is fun. There's good humor in this, but it's not well balanced.
Yeah, some of the comedy elements in here, nothing ever really got that good to me. Like, there's no... I mean, like, again, Predator has good comedic elements in it.
It does. That's true.
A lot of good shit talking in there. Got a lot of body jokes from Shane Black.
He's got Jesse the Body Ventura. That's always fun. He talks and I laugh because
his voice sounds...
That's pretty good.
I'm the governor of Minnesota. It's me, Jesse the Body Ventura.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. Yeah, the humor stuff in here, I didn't really get into very much. I mean, I'm sure a lot of it was lost on me because I don't have that Geordie slang. So I didn't understand stuff about being bone.
I don't think that's a thing because I looked it up. I think that was a thing that they did for the movie, and it is specific. Like she does specifically say, "You keep saying this, and I don't get it," which I think they used it as like an inside joke, but amongst this squad.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not something. I don't think British people say this is bone.
Right. French people do. They say "sassy bone."
Sassy bone.
Sassy bone.
Oh, sassy bone.
They do that.
This is so romantic when you talk like this.
Je suis le boeuf.
Je suis le boeuf.
I am beef.
La ananas.
Oh, wow. Sounds very romantic.
I know.
Very romantical. So apparently they did plan on maybe doing some sequels to this, right?
Yes, there was a plan. Particularly when she gets her blood, like she gets that piece of glass in her hand.
Oh, right.
That was supposed to be sort of a setup for they were going to be able to use the werewolf DNA.
Oh, like swab it.
Yeah. Use the werewolf DNA to make these super soldiers, perhaps.
Okay.
That's an interesting idea, and I would like it if he were able to do that now that he has more money and could make it the way he would want it to be made, and with some better sound design, one might imagine.
I should hope.
Yeah.
I mean, I had no complaints about the sound design in The Descent.
No, that's true.
Which, to put that into perspective too, like how I was saying this looks like it came from fucking 1996.
Yeah.
Like The Descent came like 3 years after this.
Yeah, and it looks great.
And it looks like a modern movie.
Yeah, it does. You're right. This does look behind.
And it feels like a made-for-TV movie. That's the thing about it. It's like, I know you just said that they sold it to Sci-Fi because Sci-Fi bought it, but I wonder if the version that I saw had commercial edits built into it. There's a lot of fades to black.
Huh.
There's one part in the middle of the movie, like around when they get to the house, there's two black fades like in a row.
Right.
Very distracting.
Huh. I mean, yeah, they probably would have thrown those in for the commercials.
Yeah. Because watching it not knowing that
I
it was...
didn't even think about that.
Right? Yeah. Because watching it not knowing that it was a straight-to-TV thing...
Yeah, it's like, why is this happening?
Yeah, I was like, it feels like there's supposed to be a commercial for Juicy Juice here.
And there was.
Yeah.
Well, there's probably a commercial for Sunny D.
Right. P.S. Went through a huge rabbit hole the other night where we watched a bunch of 80s commercials on YouTube.
You watch that Sunny D one?
I didn't get to that Sunny D one, but there was a lot of
We got
old,
milk,
like,
purple stuff.
OJ,
Oh, Sunny D.
Sunny D. Oh my God, dude. I always hated Sunny D.
It's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where the advertisements were so effective that we would like go to the store and be like, Mom, let's get some Sunny D. And then we get it, and I'd be like, it feels like it's coating my teeth.
It had all sorts of weird stuff in it. I don't think there was any juice.
No.
At all.
Is it just me, or could you never get it cold enough? Like, even after it'd been like in the back of the fridge, for days, it was like...
This should be colder.
Yeah, like the viscosity wasn't
Probably
right.
had propylene glycol in it.
Right.
That's antifreeze.
Yeah.
And they put it in food, and it's weird.
Don't worry about it. The kids love it.
Yeah.
Awful aftertaste.
I remember it being greasy. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it had a greasy kind of
Yeah.
feel to it, which again is probably the antifreeze stuff.
Yeah, probably so.
Which is also probably why it can never be cold enough.
Yeah.
It literally couldn't
Just pour
freeze.
that into your radiator, drive through the desert. You'd be all right.
You probably could, is the thing. You probably could. So the pacing of this movie is fine, I guess, but I mean, because I couldn't tell most of the characters apart and I didn't feel like they had a ton of personality, like, I kind of stayed a little bored through this movie.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, man, like, this is one of those flicks that, again, tons of our fans have told us they love. They want us to cover this on the show. I know a lot of people that really dig it. If you go on IMDb, you'll see so many 10s and 9s getting thrown around of people that love it. And after I watched the movie the other night, and I was like, that was kind of boring. Didn't love it.
Okay.
I went on IMDb, and there's like all these, glowing reviews about it. And I was like, oh man, this must be one of those things where they hired a bunch of people to write fake reviews for this. And then I met you, and you're like, I liked the movie. And I was like,
I had a lot of fun with it.
Some people really like this movie. I don't know, man. It just has that thing for me where I didn't really care about a lot of the characters.
Okay.
I think the premise is fine. It's not like amazing, but it's fine. I mean, I like the idea of the military trying to capture a werewolf to weaponize it and using this other group as bait.
Yeah.
I like Davos.
That could have been played up maybe more. That plot. But
more of a betrayal. Like,
right.
I thought we were brothers, weren't we?
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
What you going to throw this? What's your rating?
Overall, when I'm thinking about this movie, I can't tell you that the visual effects aren't impressive.
Yeah, they're great.
Especially considering that this was done in the age where CGI was just kind of becoming a thing and everybody was jumping on it.
Well, they actively wanted to go against CGI because they hated that. I mean, they obviously are horror lovers, and the movies that they went to pay homage to, like Aliens, Evil Dead, etc. Those were all practical effects. Yeah, they wanted practical effects.
I just can't believe that anybody in that time period of like the late 90s and early 2000s
was like, that CG looks
great. Yeah, like they watched The House on Haunting Hill and they were like, wow, that really looks good. No, it's like you were going, wow, they're doing crazy things with computers these days. But you weren't saying that looked good.
No.
There's no way.
No.
So I respect the fact that, in the day and age where all that stuff was just becoming the mega hype thing, that you put into your movie because it's some hip new technology, I do respect the shit out of the fact that they're like, no, let's just put people in costumes, not show them very much, have a hand stick through a mail slot and kind of grapple about, have some people with yellow contacts, and let's blow up a miniature house with a little Jeep in front of it. Overall, I just don't care about the characters that much. Like, if this movie had a bunch of characters that I think I really liked and had a good idea of their personalities and their character traits and stuff, I probably could have got into it a lot more. But as it was, I was just like, okay, this looks weirdly old for how old it actually is. I can't tell the characters apart. The sound design is terrible. I didn't love it, man. I went into it wanting to really like it.
Obvious.
And I can't even really give you a particular reason, like, why that I didn't enjoy it that much. I just didn't really dig it that much. Like, I am in no rush to watch this again.
Okay.
Thought it was kind of boring. Cool stuff in it. I loved when they were, like, trying to escape through the house and they were punching through walls and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's cool. There's good parts about it.
What it is.
I'm going to say on a scale of a 1 to 10, listen, you might think I'm crazy. I'm giving it a 4.
Oh!
I know. I'm saying,
I do think you're
I'm saying
crazy.
Below the median level. What do you got? What do you think about it?
I liked the movie. I enjoyed the homage. I liked the characters, though I agree with you that there were more bodies than characters.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And there are some logical inconsistencies that don't fit. But I had a ball watching it.
Yeah.
And I think the story is consistent. It's believable. There are so many times where...
I'll say that. It is, it is believable.
Yeah.
Sorry. It is believable.
You're all right.
In that real life isn't always the most exciting thing where everybody is some unique, crazy caricature of a person, you know?
But also, they react the way you would expect people to react to being told werewolves exist, where it's just like, no, they don't, and that's crazy. So, and like, even the first time we see them seeing the werewolves out in the open, who's our guy? Cooper, our main guy, says, don't stare at them, because he's treating them like animals. Like, it's a wild animal, don't look it in the eye. Like, it's just a wild animal we've never seen. It's a very normal, natural reaction that wouldn't be like, that's a fucking werewolf, because werewolves aren't real.
Right. This is clearly just some large animal.
Yeah, so I think the writing is pretty stellar from time to time, but it falls apart a bit with some of the logic and with some of the lines where I'm just like, it just doesn't sound natural. It doesn't sound how this person would talk. Like Megan in particular, she's all over the place. But I had a great time watching it. So that boosts it up for me. And I like werewolf movies. And I like the way the werewolves look in this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Werewolves.
John Travolta.
How have we not done a John Travolta this whole episode yet? My God.
He called me and he asked me to please stop talking about how he's a werewolf.
Hollywood Steve, it's
Hollywood
me.
Steve,
It's John Travolta.
I'm on my private jet. Listen, please don't tell people I'm a werewolf.
I don't know that I've ever said werewolf before in my life, but people are always making this joke at me about talking about werewolves.
He's a werewolf, though.
Yeah.
I know it to be
that's
true.
True story.
Yeah.
So, where you at?
I'm going to say 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
Oh, he liked this movie,
I
didn't
liked it a
he?
good bit, didn't I?
It's a real quality piece of film, innit? Yeah.
Our British accents are fucking superb.
Oh, they're perfect. That's why we have so many British listeners.
That's true.
It really reminds me of being back in me mother's arms, doesn't it?
I think it is why we have so many Australian listeners, because they're like,
right.
yeah, that is what British people sound like, right?
British people, they sound ridiculous. That's my Australian accent, y'all.
That's pretty good.
Didgeridoo, koala.
Koala. Yeah.
Oh, watch out for the drop bear. It's just still British.
Yeah. Okay, so there's one thing. I've been working on this Australian accent.
Ooh, I'm
for a
enticed.
long time, and there's one thing I can say very Australian. The States.
States.
The way they say states.
Ooh, yeah, that
is
is
like there's
it.
an I in there.
Instead of an A.
Yeah, the States.
States. It's in the States. Yeah, that works actually. Yeah.
They drink Foster's in the States.
We don't drink that beer here.
Not here.
Not in Australia.
Amaru.
Sometimes they put the R at the end of Australia.
Well, throw that R in there.
Yeah.
So Australia's like an entire continent, and they probably have several different accents.
Oh, I'm sure.
And all of our Aussie listeners are like, it's fucking blasting AC/DC, getting pissed off at us. Like, oi, mate, that's not how I talk.
Get off of me, wallaby!
Get over here.
Crikey!
Oh.
I've just been bitten by the dingo. They're probably always saying.
That's true. I mean, dingo bites.
Crikey, so many
Like fucking
poisonous
mosquitoes.
spiders in my house. I imagine they say that several times every day.
Several times.
Crikey.
So many spiders.
So many poisonous spiders in my house.
Yeah.
Just a little remark.
It's true, though.
An observation. They aren't wrong.
And then they go to their bathroom and there's a shark.
Yeah, taking a shower.
Taking a shower. It's a wereshark.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, keeping them hydrated out there. Yeah.
It's just Jaws 4 that makes me think this, but for some reason I think that if a shark were to talk, it would roar.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Because in Jaws 4, Jaws roars.
Oh, wow.
He like comes up out of the water and he's like, roar!
I like it.
And I think they got it from, there's a scene in, like, there's a moment in Jaws 1 where the sound of the water rushing into the animatronic kind of sounds like a roar. And I think that whoever was making Jaws 4 was like, yeah, I think it's supposed to roar or something, like a lion.
What was that thing I was saying about sound design? About when you just notice it when it's really bad?
Yes.
Now, as we said on next week's episode, we're going to be going with a Patreon-supported listener pick due to our new periodical drawings that we're going to be doing for you guys on the $5 level and above. We're going to be doing 28 Days Later, which I'm astounded that we're not done yet.
Yeah, it's crazy.
One of the best zombie movies ever.
For real, yes.
Keeping our British streak going on, so we'll get to keep doing our charming British accents more.
Oh, good. And then we do Harry Potter after that. So,
oh, yeah. Oh, man. You guys are getting like a month.
Our British listeners are like, fuck this.
Oh, my God. It's like, yeah, I'll put this one on snooze for
I'm sorry.
3
No,
weeks.
they're more like, bloody hell, mate.
Oh, bloody hell.
Down to the Tesco with me. Listen to this podcast is a piece of piss, usually. But when they do their British accents, I can't have it.
God save the Queen.
God save the Queen.
I think I'll just go down and have a tea and a biscuit.
A pint of bitters.
A pint of bitters and just try to forget all this nonsense.
Give me a pint of the brown.
It's a real spot of bother listening to this show.
It is. That's true. It is
Real
a spot of bother.
I wish like a British listener would go in and review this on iTunes and say it's a real spot of bother.
If someone does that,
please do.
High five from us.
Please, please do. Mm-hmm. So we'll be talking 28 Days Later next week. In the meantime, you guys be sure to follow us on the social media platforms.
At Dead Lovely Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
That's correct.
We have the Dead and Lovely Horror Movie Podcast group on Facebook.
2 for 2.
We got a Dead and Lovely Discord server if you want to get on it. I have posted the link in the past, but you can just email and I'll send you a link.
God darn right.
You can also email us at deadandlovelypod@gmail.com.
That's right. And you guys be sure to support us on the Patreon page at
patreon.com/deadandlovely. And if you just want to send us a lump sum of money, you don't want to commit to something monthly, you can catch us on paypal.me/deadandlovely.
Yes, indeed. And we love drinking beers from all over the country, as long as they are not poisoned. I will always reiterate
That's true.
this fact.
I would always prefer anything I ingest to be not poisoned.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Just in general. I'll try to avoid the poison whenever I can. You guys be sure to drop us an email, and we'll give you a location to send some beers to if you guys want to show off the best brews your hometown has to offer.
And we would love to drink your hometown brews.
We'd love to get a pull.
We've gotten so many great ones from New Mexico, Michigan, Georgia,
California,
all over the place. California.
All over the place.
Tons of stuff from Ohio, from RDM. Yeah.
So much good stuff out there.
Yeah.
We love to taste our way through the nation.
That's right.
Well, we'll be seeing you guys next week talking about 28 Days Later. You all have been better than we deserve. We've been dead and lovely. I've been Uncle Ben.
I've been Hollywood Steve.
And we'll see you guys real soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Space Yankee!
They came from outer space. We wasn't expecting them.
We heard they was from Space North, which is a little odd considering there ain't no real north and south directions in space. But we figure Space North must mean anywhere that ain't here. And if they ain't from here, I don't trust them.
Uh-huh. Coming down here, carpet bagging.
Uh-huh. Trying to pull our kids out of our space mines.
Down here, we got kids, of course, mining space.
I do say, good sirs, I do not think that the children should be mining the comets. They are awful young and the workplace conditions are quite terrible.
Hey, now, don't be coming from up north with your damn alien speak.
There's no north in space, sir.
Mm-hmm. That's what you want me to believe. The Earth's flat.
My word.
Up is north. Duh. The space south will rise again. That's us.